Chapter 808. Robio, I need to go to the hospital in the afternoon. Feilai, you're not really pregnant, are you? I'm not sure. The coastal rescue team was different from other professions. Usually, people could only ask for maternity leave 3 months before the expected date of delivery. However, due to special reasons, if a member of the coastal rescue team was found to be pregnant, they had to take leave. If a pregnant woman with a big belly went to save people at sea, it would be a beautiful scene. Feilai was very nervous at the moment. Her heartbeat sped up unnaturally. After getting the leave slip from Robio, the first thing she wanted to do was call Chen Zhao. However, she was afraid that she would be happy for nothing. Buy a test strip? She should ask 4 first. Feilai picked up her phone and dialed 4's number. 4, I want to ask you a question. What is it? What's the reaction in the early stages of pregnancy? Feilai, you have to face reality, 4 said earnestly. You and Chen can adopt a child in the future. I'm just asking you a question. Why are you telling me so much? Fine. Why are you asking? I just want to know. First is the pregnancy reaction. In the early stages, the heart rate increases. At the same time, because of pregnancy, stomach acid secretion decreases, and digestive enzyme activity weakens. That's why there's an acidophilic reaction. 4 started to explain some basic things. Of course, Feilai wouldn't understand even if she said she was responsible. Feilai thought for a moment and asked, then if there's an increased heart rate, but no acidophilic reaction, does that mean I'm pregnant or not? If you want to know if you're pregnant, it's best to buy a test strip yourself, or come to the hospital for a checkup. The test strip is more than 95% accurate. Also, there are many reasons for an increased heart rate. It might not be caused by pregnancy. Also, even if you're really pregnant, not everyone will have an acidophilic reaction, Feilai said. It might also be a huge increase in appetite, because the body is adapting to maternal instincts. The body needs a lot of nutrients. Feilai thought for a moment. Her appetite had indeed increased. Are you at the hospital in the afternoon? I'm here. What's wrong? I'll go find you later, Feilai said. 4 was confused. Was Feilai sick? This was because some special conditions would be very similar to pregnancy reactions, which would also lead to misdiagnosis. 4 had read Feilai's last report. She had basically concluded that Feilai's chances of becoming a mother were very low. At the very least, the possibility of giving birth herself was slim. However, she did not dare to say it too clearly. She was worried that Feilai couldn't accept the reality. He felt a little resentful towards Chen Zhao. He didn't want to help Feilai. Feilai came to Chantilly Hospital with nervous and complicated feelings. When 4 received Feilai's call again, his expression froze. She didn't know how to face Feilai. What if Feilai got a result that disappointed her, or even made her despair? Feilai, do you really want a pregnancy test? Yes. Feilai nodded. Feilai, you know that your chances of getting pregnant are very low, given your body's condition, 4 said earnestly. I know, but I just want to know. All right then, you go to the toilet first. 4 sent Feilai's urine to the lab. Far, how long will the test take? About 3 days. Don't worry. That long? Yes. If it's a test paper, it'll be out immediately. But since it's an instrument, it'll be much more complicated. Of course, the accuracy will be much higher too. Actually, it wasn't that complicated. The results could be obtained in 10 minutes. However, 4 hadn't thought of a solution yet. She specially told the lab staff not to take out the test report yet. You're free in the afternoon, right? Let me walk with you, 4 said. Sure, Feilai agreed happily. 4 saw that Feilai's hand was placed on her belly unconsciously. She felt that Feilai was bewitched. Feilai, is there anything that a pregnant woman can't eat? 4 was speechless. Feilai, can't you wake up? 4 felt that Feilai was really going to go crazy. You have Chen beside you. Do you still need to ask me this question? 4 rolled her eyes. Chinese medicine has always been better than Western medicine in terms of treatment. Just then, the two saw a pregnant woman with a big belly sitting in the garden behind the hospital, enjoying the warm sunlight. Feilai walked over. Can I sit here? Of course. The woman was already more than 8 months pregnant. Her belly was very big, 3 to 4 times bigger than Feilai's waist. The woman looked at Fei Lai, and Fei Lai looked at her belly. Can I touch it? Sure. In China, there was a taboo for a 10-month pregnant woman to not corrode. This meant that the pregnant woman's belly could not be touched by other women. Otherwise, if een entered the body, it wouldn't be good for the woman or the fetus. It was unlucky anyway. However, this was America, so there was no such taboo. How does it feel? Fei Lai asked curiously. Very tired, but I'm looking forward to it, the woman said, smiling. I have to come for a checkup almost every month. The woman looked at Fei Lai. Your smell seems to be the same as mine. Do you have a child too? Can you tell? Fei Lai asked, confused. The woman pointed at her nose. A pregnant woman's nose is 10 times stronger than a normal person's. I don't know. I'm here for a checkup today. Fei Lai suddenly felt the pregnant woman's belly move, as if a small foot was kicking her hand. Is it very strong? The woman's face was filled with a happy smile. Fei Lai nodded. Yes, very magical. Fei Lai also had an unprecedented desire for children. She wanted to be pregnant like this woman, and enjoy the process of being pregnant for 10 months. Perhaps for other women, it was a process of getting pregnant. However, Fei Lai was filled with anticipation and yearning. It was as if this could make her feel like a complete woman. A man like Chen Zhao could not understand such thoughts. Helpless, for spent the entire afternoon with Fei Lai, and only sent her off in the evening. She returned to her office, planning to pack up and get off work. Just then the doctor from the laboratory knocked on the door. Far, this is the test report of the urine you sent over today. Okay, thank you. Is this your report? No. Chapter 809. Far's expression froze, and she jerked her head up. What did you say? The doctor in the lab looked at Far as if he had seen a ghost. Could it really be your urine? What did you just say? Far's eyes widened. What? The doctor was confused. He didn't understand why Far was reacting so strongly. You're saying that this urine test report is from a pregnant woman? Yes, from this test report, it should be the early stage of pregnancy reaction. Val picked up the report. Was she really pregnant? It can't be. Far read the report for more than 10 minutes, trying to find some suspicious data. Perhaps it was just a suspected biological characteristic, not a pregnancy. However, all the data in this report indicated that the White House was not the same as the White House. Fei Lai was really pregnant. Could it be someone else's urine? Far wasn't sure. She looked at the bottom of the urine test report. Her blood type was the same as his. In the end, Far decided to call Chen Zhao. Hi Chen, it's Far. What's the matter? Fei Lai's pregnant. Haha, great, I'm going to be a dad again. Chen Zhao was addicted to being a nanny. This kind of thing was really easy to get addicted to. Even Chen Zhao didn't expect the wishing coin to be so effective. At that moment, Chen Zhao felt that this wishing coin had been very useful. Chen, you should know better than me that it's impossible for Fei Lai to get pregnant. She has physical difficulty with ovulation. Oh, you're mistaken. I accompanied Fei Lai to the hospital for a checkup. Your hospital made a mistake. That's impossible. Far immediately refuted. That's the truth and the result, Chen Zhao said. Cured Fei Lai? Far asked suspiciously. I already said that Fei Lai is not sick. It was a misdiagnosis last time. Okay. I'm not talking to you anymore. Chen Zhao hung up. Fei Lai was currently soaking in the lake. Fei Lai, come here, Chen Zhao called from the shore. I have good news for you. Fei Lai swam to the shore and looked up at him. What is it? Fei Lai, you might have to take a long leave. Why? You're pregnant. Huh. Fei Lai shrieked. Excitement, joy, nervousness, and disbelief. Pregnant? Was she really pregnant? Am I really pregnant? Are you telling the truth? You're not lying to me, right? Come up. I'll check your pulse. Chen Zhao also needed to confirm. Fei Lai immediately took the towel from the demon and sat on the sofa with Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao placed his finger on Fei Lai's pulse. She didn't have a pulse of pregnancy yet. After all, the time was too short, and the fetus had not formed yet. However, Chen Zhao could still sense Fei Lai's heartbeat and some other physiological characteristics through her pulse. Fei Lai, I have to congratulate you again. You're really pregnant. Fei Lai hugged Chen Zhao's neck excitedly, tears of joy flowing down her face uncontrollably. His dream had come true. His dream had really come true. Chen, this is like a dream. Is this real? I heard that crying will affect a child's development. Fei Lai stopped crying and smiled. She wiped her tears and patted Chen Zhao coquettishly. Mommy. Just then, little Jerlin crawled in from outside. Both Fei Lai and Chen Zhao were stunned. Then Fei Lai was overjoyed. She immediately picked up Jerlin from the ground. Darling, did you hear that? What did our baby just call me? Come call daddy. Chen Zhao had also heard Jerlin call him daddy today. However, Jerlin ignored Chen Zhao at all. She couldn't stop giggling in Fei Lai's arms. Chen, look at Jerlin's knees. She crawls on the ground every day. I think they're a bit scraped. Just apply some ointment. Kids should be allowed to move around. Our kids aren't that weak. Chen Zhao didn't think that this was a bad thing. It was normal for kids to be active. Everyone crawled, walked, and then ran. Chen Zhao doted on Jerlin, but he shouldn't lock her in a small cage. He wasn't protecting Jerlin. He was hurting her. When a child could move, he should let her move as much as she wanted. The next day, Fei Lai applied for a long leave for Robio. These days, Fei Lai had been hoping that her belly would grow bigger. Chen Zhao was also very happy about Fei Lai's pregnancy. But very soon, Chen Zhao realized a problem. Fei Lai had already started to protect her unborn belly in all aspects. First, she stopped drinking. Usually, Chen Zhao and Fei Lai would drink beer when they were free. But from that day onwards, she completely stopped drinking. Not only did she stop drinking for herself, she also forbade Chen Zhao from drinking at home. She said that if she saw Chen Zhao drink, she would want to drink too. She went to bed on time every day, and woke up on time too. Chen Zhao gave her a recipe. Not only did Fei Lai eat by herself, but she also wanted Chen Zhao to eat with her. Chen Zhao really wanted to slap himself. He couldn't help it. Fei Lai was pregnant. Pregnant women were the biggest. Bored, Ma'am scrolled through the video website. He saw the title of a video on the homepage. The great director's dream of being an actor. Ma'am clicked on the video and saw Steven in it. Steven was acting with an Asian guy in a famous scene from the movie Titanic. Ma'am almost choked. Was this really director Steven? Yes, it was Steven. But who was this Asian guy? He couldn't see his face clearly. Just as the two were about to kiss, the Asian guy suddenly vomited. No, I'm straight. I can't act anymore. Ma'am slapped his thigh in laughter. I'm dying of laughter. It's my turn. I'll be the director. You two act. Then Steven and another old man, whose name was unknown, started acting out the scene of Jack and Ruth's departure after the ship sank. Someone recognized that the other old man was the CEO of PLM. From the surroundings, they could tell that they were on a yacht. After the show, they asked Steven to direct it. The Asian guy and Rasfa switched to another scene. But just then the yacht shook. Then, the camera turned and saw another yacht colliding with theirs. A group of people in black jumped onto their boat. Then the Asian guy charged over. Fuck, that was a joke. This is the real show, right? Is this a movie or real? Who the hell is that Asian? Superman. Chinese Kung Fu. It's Chinese Kung Fu. Are you kidding? There are so many criminals, and he took care of them alone? Chapter 810. Mr. Steven, there's a video online saying that you encountered bandits at sea. Is that true? Mr. Steven, rumor has it that you've killed criminals with your own hands. Is it true? Mr. Steven. As soon as Steven came out of his house, he was surrounded by a wave of reporters. However, Steven's bodyguards immediately blocked the persona away. Yes, it's true. Steven replied. As you can see, a lot of details have been cut out. In fact, there are still a lot of inside stories. Mr. Steven, can you tell me more about the inside story? I plan to film this incident into a movie. I will reveal the truth to everyone in the movie, Steven said. This was a decision he'd made after discussing with Rasfa and Chen Zhao. Of course, the video was edited before it was released. To the reporters, this was super big news. Furthermore, from Steven's tone, it seemed that there was a huge secret involved in this. The three of them had a plan for this movie. It was not produced by PLM Films. Instead, it was produced by Steven's own studio, and the three of them invested together. Chen Zhao also joined in the fun, and bought 20%. As for how the movie was shot and how it was done, it was none of his business. Chen Zhao only had to pay. He just had to wait for his share. Steven and Rasfa were responsible for making this IP popular. For the past 2 days, the entertainment news had been reporting on this incident. Moreover, he had unearthed a lot of inside information from who knows where. Or maybe the entertainment media made it up. However, this didn't affect his daily life. Steven cut out all of Chen Zhao's face in the video. Little Jerlin, good luck, good luck. Fei Lai was beside Jerlin, watching her paddle the lake. Little Jerlin couldn't even stand up now, but she could already swim more than 100 meters. Little Jerlin's swimming talent was very good. What was limiting her now was her stamina. After swimming for more than 100 meters, Little Jerlin finally couldn't swim anymore. Fei Lai lifted Little Jerlin with one hand and carried her back to the shore. Little Jerlin was lying on the lawn, but there was still a bright smile on her face. The 4 heavenly kings came over and licked Little Jerlin, making her giggle nonstop. Although the work of the lifeguards was temporarily suspended, but she still insisted on swimming every day. When Chen Zhao went out, Ethan introduced a client to him. Although Chen Zhao's clients had decreased recently, they were all high-quality clients. Therefore, his income didn't decrease. Instead, it increased quite a bit. After leaving the client's house, Chen Zhao went to the headquarters of the association. Cisco had been locked up in the association for more than half a month. From the very beginning, he still wanted to escape. At this point, he only wished for death. Over the past half a month, he had suffered far too much terrifying torture. And every time Chen Zhao would save him, then he would receive the next round of destruction and torture. This group of people were like demons. They used all kinds of unimaginable torture to destroy him. Recently, the association had been relatively peaceful. Basically, nothing major had happened. In a rented house in an abandoned block, there were more than a dozen burly men surrounding it. The man in the middle was angrily smashing everything he could. Trash! Trash! You're all trash! The man's face was ferocious. Look at who you found. Not only did you not kill that old bastard Steven, but you even made this a hot topic for a movie. I want you to kill him, not create a movie for him. Sir, we didn't expect his bodyguard to be so strong. Although the first batch of people were small fries, Steven's bodyguard was able to take care of those small fries by himself. This is enough to prove his strength. Before this, you didn't tell us that Steven had such a strong bodyguard around him. Excuses, all excuses. The man still couldn't calm his anger. Tell me, what's your next step? It's not the time to attack. Steven's already strengthened the protection around him. The possibility of capturing him is too low. You're giving up? I've already paid for it. We're not giving up. We're just gathering our forces temporarily. We can't alert the enemy. We need to wait for things to calm down and make Steven lower his guard. That way, it'll be easier for us to act instead of acting rashly. How long do we have to wait? At least a month. At most half a year. So long. Steven is the world's top director, and he's also rich. The success rate of another attack like last time is very low. It's almost impossible. At most 3 months. I want results within 3 months, or you know the consequences. No one can lie to me. And no one can take my money without doing anything. The expressions of the people present were somewhat unnatural. They couldn't help but turn serious. They were very afraid of the man before them. Even though they'd been through hundreds of battles, they were still facing this strange man. They were as insignificant as lambs waiting to be slaughtered. All right, we'll send Steven to you in 3 months. After torturing Cisco, Chen Zhao was in a good mood. He whistled as he drove home. When he was near Mountain Town, a figure suddenly jumped in front of Chen Zhao's car. Chen Zhao hurriedly stepped on the brakes. With a thud, the figure fell in front of the car. Chen Zhao hurriedly got out of the car to check. He saw an 18 or 19-year-old girl lying in front of the car with blood on her forehead. There was a dent on the hood of Chen Zhao's car. No way. He didn't hit her just now. Hey, are you okay? Do you need to call an ambulance? The girl opened her eyes and looked at Chen Zhao. You hit me, so you need to pay. $10,000. Give me 10,000, and I'll pretend this never happened. Otherwise, I'll sue you until you go bankrupt. I'll make you lose your job. Chen Zhao's face darkened. Fuck, so she's a scammer. Then call the police. There's a dashcam in my car. The police can decide who's right and who's wrong. If it's my fault, I'm willing to pay. The girl grabbed Chen Zhao's collar. Kid, don't do this the hard way. I'll take a step back. If you don't give me $5,000, I'll make you pay for it. Chen Zhao frowned. Don't even think about it, Chen Zhao said indifferently. I'll take another step back. 3,000. I can't go any lower. Look at my forehead and body. I'm injured, but you can't ignore such serious injuries. Chapter 8:11. The girl took the $500 and glared at Chen Zhao. You're lucky this time. Watch the road next time. Fuck, give me back my money. The girl ran away, not forgetting to give Chen Zhao the middle finger when she turned back. Chen Zhao looked at the girl running away and pursed his lips. If he really wanted to catch the girl, she probably wouldn't be able to run away even if she broke her legs. But he guessed that this woman was also from Mountain Town. The people in town often saw each other, so Chen Zhao didn't want to be too calculative. Chen Zhao arrived at the town and stopped at the entrance of the supermarket. He bought some things. When he came out, he saw Bant and Mary moving things. The two of them were carrying a plastic bucket. There were a few more on the ground. Chen Zhao went up and helped them move the things into the car. In town, Chen Zhao was very familiar with Bant and Mary's families. The two families would occasionally visit each other. Chen, thank you. Mary tiptoed and hugged Chen Zhao. Darling, what are these heavy buckets? Wheat. Our family brews some wheat beer around this time every year. Chen, when we're done, we'll send you a bucket. Don't send it to my house, Chen Zhao said hurriedly. When you're free, let me drink at your house. Fei Lai's pregnant. Not only does she not drink, she doesn't even allow me to drink at home. Really? Fei Lai's pregnant? Why didn't you tell me earlier? It's a good thing. Bant and Mary were both happy for Chen Zhao and Fei Lai. Oh, where's Ken? I don't think I've seen him recently. I don't know what he's doing outside, but he hasn't asked us for money recently, Bant said. Chen, I made some baby baskets and cribs. I'll send them over later. Bant and Mary both knew that Chen Zhao had a daughter. They weren't rich themselves, so they couldn't give anything valuable. So he was thinking of giving Jerlin something practical. Sure, thank you. Most of the wooden furniture in Chen Zhao's house was made by Bant's workshop. The quality was excellent. Therefore, Chen Zhao would ask Bant to do all the carpentry work. Mary was a very diligent woman. Chen Zhao had introduced her to her job as a nanny. The Dell family was too big, and Mary couldn't manage it all by herself. So recently, they recruited a few more mediocre people, and of course, Mary was promoted. She worked as a housekeeper in Dell's house, and took care of Dell and Fisher's daily life in an orderly manner. Mary wasn't very educated, but in front of Dell and Faith, she was like an old mother. He usually helped out with the chores, but when Yenli got up, even Dell had to give way. Dell also paid Mary quite well, so Bant and Mary's family's income increased as well. The three of them were not in a hurry to go home. Instead, they sat in the open-air bar outside the supermarket, drinking and chatting. Just then, Chen Zhao saw the girl who had tried to blackmail his car walk across the street. Who is that girl? It looks strange. Lynn Beavers disappeared for a year after graduating from high school. She only came back recently. Her parents even called the police, Bant said. Why are you suddenly interested in her? I've seen many pretty girls in town flirt with you, but you don't pay them any attention. We met earlier, Chen Zhao said indifferently. It's time to go back. Drive slowly, Mary reminded him carefully. Chen Zhao hugged Mary and then Bant. Goodbye. When Chen Zhao got home, he saw Fei Lai doing yoga. Princess was lying on the grass beside her. Little Jerlin nestled under the princess's belly and fell asleep like a kitten. What she liked the most was to nestle in the princess's arms, soft and warm. Fei Lai's belly was already slightly bulging. Usually, pregnant women's bellies would bulge in the first month. But Fei Lai was faster. As soon as Chen Zhao went up, Fei Lai stopped her yoga. Chen, did you drink outside? Damn, no way. He only drank a bottle of beer. How could he smell it? Air. I met Bant and Mary in town, so I drank. Go shower now immediately. Fine, you're the boss. Whatever you say. Just then, a car stopped at the front door. Chen Zhao walked up, and a middle-aged couple got out. They seemed to be from town, but Chen Zhao had probably not met them before. "Hi, how can I help you?" "Hi, Mr. Chen. We're here to ask for your help." The middle-aged couple seemed to be in a hurry. Chen Zhao thought about it. If they wanted to borrow money, he had to think about it. After all, he didn't know them at all. "Is there anything I can help you with?" "It's my daughter," the man said urgently. "She's having a seizure." "Mr. Chen, can you please go and see her? You didn't send her to the hospital." Chen Zhao asked, confused. "Actually, we did. The doctor prescribed a few anti-epilepsy drugs. It worked the first few times, but this time, it didn't work at all. Fei Lai, I'm going out for a while." "Okay," Fei Lai replied. "Come back soon." "Let's go," Chen Zhao said. Since they were neighbors, there was no need to be so calculative about helping. Chen Zhao got into the couple's car. In the car, Chen Zhao learned that the couple was called Plumber and Sandra. After reaching their house, Chen Zhao saw that the house was a bit messy. Opening the door to their daughter's room, Chen Zhao realized that the convulsing girl on the bed was the girl who had tried to blackmail him, Lin Beavers. Her limbs were tied to the headboard, and her mouth was tied with a rope. She was spitting. Chen Zhao sat on the bed and put down his toolbox. First, he opened Lin Beaver's eyelids. "Do you have her medical report?" Chen Zhao asked. "Yes, this one." Plumber handed him his daughter's report. "Do you or your wife have epilepsy in your family?" Chen Zhao asked. "No, we don't have epilepsy. None of our elders have epilepsy either." "Then when did she start having epilepsy?" Chen Zhao asked. "Lin didn't have epilepsy before. She just came back recently and was suddenly diagnosed with epilepsy." Chen Zhao frowned. This didn't seem to be a normal situation. Children and the elderly often had epilepsy. When children grew up, the number of seizures and symptoms would decrease. They might even be cured. For adults who didn't have a similar history, epilepsy could be caused by surgery or trauma. It could also be caused by stimulants. Chapter 8:12. Is she allergic to medicine? Chen Zhao asked. No, Plumber said. Chen Zhao took out a small amount of tranquilizer. He didn't dare to use too much. After all, it was his first time dealing with a patient. Suddenly, Chen Zhao saw a surgical suture mark on the back of Lin's head. Did she have surgery recently? I don't know. Plumber and Sandra were confused. She went out for a year. We don't know what she went through in the past year. After she came back, she didn't tell us where she went. Suddenly, Lin bounced up, and the rope that was originally tied to her hands broke. Chen Zhao quickly pressed Lin back onto the bed. He looked back at Plumber and Sandra. She's really strong. Both of them looked troubled. They smiled awkwardly. The pathogenesis of epilepsy was very complicated. Most of it was caused by abnormal firing of neurons. Some patients with epilepsy were ineffective to medicine and conventional treatment, such as Lin. Even anti-epilepsy drugs couldn't make her go back to normal. Chen Zhao said, there's a vagus nerve stimulator. It's implanted in the patient's body and connected to the vagus nerve with a metal wire. It stimulates the vagus nerve by changing the frequency and intensity of the discharge to stop epilepsy. It's quite effective. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chen. Mr. Chen, here's $500. Thank you for treating Lin. No need. Goodbye. Chen Zhao rejected the fee. Chen Zhao glanced at Plumber and Sandra's family background. They didn't seem to be very well off either. As for the vagus nerve stimulator that Chen Zhao mentioned, they probably couldn't afford it. The vagus nerve stimulator alone cost at least $20,000. Adding the surgery, treatment, and hospitalization costs, the total would be at least $30,000. After Chen Zhao walked out of the door, he suddenly felt a pair of eyes looking in his direction. Chen Zhao raised his head and looked into the distance. It was a man in casual clothes and a hood. The man had a lollipop in his mouth. Sensing Chen Zhao's gaze, the man turned his head. Chen Zhao picked up his phone and called Leonardo. Leonardo, I think there's a suspicious person in Mountain Town. Come and help me investigate him. Okay, no problem. I happen to be in town. Soon. Chen Zhao saw Leonardo's police car stop before the man. The man suddenly turned and ran. Leonardo chased after him, but he returned after a short while. It seemed that he had lost him. Chen Zhao walked to Leonardo's police car. How is it? You didn't catch him? Leonardo was so tired that he was panting. I couldn't catch him. He ran too fast. I just came out of that house and found him, Chen Zhao said. Keep an eye on him. I think he's up to no good. Hey, it's this family. Yes, why? Do you know this family? I came to this house last year. At the time, their daughter had been missing for a month. I came to give their statement. Missing for a month before reporting to the police. They didn't call the police. It was her friend. Chen Zhao glanced at the couple's house. Their daughter had been missing for a month, and they hadn't called the police? Even if the Americans were more lax with their adult children, it shouldn't be this lenient, right? Do you know that their daughter is back? Oh, she's back. Chen Zhao felt that something was off, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Anyway, it wasn't his problem, so Chen Zhao couldn't be bothered to ask. The two chatted in the police car. They would usually get together to drink once a month. Chun, when are you coming out to drink again? Probably not now. Feilai's pregnant, and she doesn't let me drink. Okay, I'll mourn for you for 3 seconds. Shouldn't you say that it's fine as long as Feilai doesn't find out? Next time it's my treat. With your and David's alcohol tolerance, I think it's good to have one less person. We're done. Leonardo sent Chen Zhao home. However, he was still on duty, so he didn't stay. Feilai was still doing yoga at the door. Chun, there's a package for you. Was that Leonardo? Why didn't you ask him to come in? He's still working. Chen Zhao saw a sealed box in the living room. Chen Zhao opened the box and found another wooden box inside. He opened the wooden box and found a letter inside, as well as a pillar-shaped metal object. Chen Zhao looked at the envelope and took out the letter. It was Fanity's letter. Mr. Chun, I found this in a relic. It's a very valuable antique. I'll give it to you as a souvenir, your friend Fanity. A strange letter and a strange gift. He didn't seem to be that close with Fanity, right? She'd found a valuable antique, and even mailed it to him. Chen Zhao picked up the metal object. It was very intricately made. It had 2 layers. The outer layer was engraved with many pictures and some holes. There was a handle that could be turned to turn the inner metal wall. It looked like a hand-operated rotating kaleidoscope. Chen Zhao tried to turn the handle, but it was stuck. It wouldn't budge. Tzh, what's this? It's broken. Chen Zhao casually tossed the metal object onto the table. You might as well give me some jewelry. Chen Zhao shook his head in disappointment. Yeah. Jerlin crawled to Chen Zhao's feet. Want. Jerlin reached out, as if she wanted to grab the metal object on the table. Every time Jerlin saw something she wanted to bite, she would open her mouth and make babbling sounds. At first, Chen Zhao thought that Jerlin was calling him. Now he realized that he'd been overthinking. Chen Zhao picked up the metal object and placed it before Jerlin. Can you carry it? The metal object wasn't heavy for adults, but Jerlin had small arms and legs. Chen Zhao was really worried that she'd smash him. Jerlin picked up the metal object with both hands and put it in her mouth to bite. Just then the top of the metal object cracked and loosened. Chen Zhao was stunned. The top of this thing could be opened. A dry old scroll fell out of it. Chen Zhao picked it up and read. There was nothing on it. What's Fanity doing? Is she playing guessing games with me? Chapter 8:13. Chen Zhao waved his hand, but the guardian angel ignored him. Chen Zhao reached out to grab the guardian angel. The guardian angel appeared from the back of his palm. The guardian angel wasn't a spiritual body. She was pure energy. No one could catch her. At least, apart from the demon king in hell, no one could. Since he couldn't catch the guardian angel, Chen Zhao could only bring the scroll to her. He let her light shine on the scroll. But the guardian angel was the same as Jerlin. She was also very active. It flew around and couldn't stop at all. What was this? A treasure map? Chen Zhao's head hurt. Never mind, he wouldn't look. What the hell did Fanity give him? Chen Zhao picked up the phone and asked Fanity directly. But he couldn't get through to Fanity. This thing looked quite evil. Chen Zhao didn't know what it was for. Did it contain any magic? Jerlin had the guardian angel, but it wasn't completely safe. So Chen Zhao put the metal object in the scroll away. It was enough to have something to bite at Jerlin's mouth. Just then Chen Zhao's phone rang. It was a call from Steven. Chen, are you busy right now? No, why? I need to discuss something with you. It was rare for Steven to be so shy before Chen Zhao. Usually, Steven would share with Chen Zhao generously even the women he'd slept with last night. Chen Zhao was confused. What did the old guy want to talk about? Tell me what's up. It's not convenient to talk over the phone. Come here. Fuck, are you infected with some kind of dirty disease? Go to the hospital yourself. No, I've been abstinent recently. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. This old guy was abstinent. Who was he trying to fool? What's up? It's not convenient to talk over the phone. Come here. Fine. I'll come. It's so troublesome. Chen Zhao hurried to Steven's house and saw that Rasfa was there too. The two old men had already started drinking when Chen Zhao wasn't around. What are you doing? You two. Chen, you're here? Chen Zhao looked at the two old men. There wasn't even a single servant in the house. He didn't know what they were planning to chase all the servants away. Chen Zhao sat beside them and poured himself a glass of wine. Tell me, why did you call me here? We want to plan a kidnapping. Pucci, are you too crazy? No, we're serious. You're crazy. I'm leaving. Chen Zhao stood up and was about to leave. Don't go. Rasfa pulled Chen Zhao back, his breath reeking of alcohol. We're planning to turn this incident into an IP. But I don't think it's popular enough, so I want to add more fuel to the fire. Chen Zhao looked at Rasfa and Steven. He didn't know if the two old things were drunk or not. You two sober up first. Call me when you're sober up. With your current state, it's hard for me to believe that you're serious or just drunk. He broke away from the two and turned to leave. The two were really drunk. Chen Zhao wasn't interested in discussing secrets with two drunkards. They weren't even sober themselves. What could they talk about? At night, after dinner, the two sat by the lake and enjoyed the autumn scenery. It was still early autumn, but the leaves on the surrounding trees had already turned deep yellow. A circle of fallen leaves had accumulated at the edge of Mirror Lake. It was completely golden, just like the lake's border. Jerlin had been in Fei Lai's arms, enjoying the quiet time. But she lost her patience after a while. With a splash, she dove into the water. The little guy was much more agile in the water than on land. Chun, do you think Jerlin was a fish in her past life? Last year, when I came to Mirror Lake for the first time, Walter even bit a big catfish to death. I suspected it was Jerlin, but her mother was there too. Do you miss her? Missing her is one thing, but it's not love. I just feel that Jerlin lost her mother at such a young age. It's really pitiful. No matter what, Jerlin and Chen Zhao had a relationship before. Chen Zhao would still think of Jerlin occasionally. Of course, Chen Zhao wouldn't admit it. I'm her mother, Fei Lai said. I'll take Jerlin's place and love her with the purest motherly love. Chen Zhao patted Fei Lai's hair. Shoulder to shoulder, they sat by the lake. Watching Jerlin play on the water, Walter stayed in the water the whole time. Usually, Jerlin wouldn't go into the water unless Chen Zhao and Fei Lai were beside her. Otherwise, Walter would definitely go in. Walter might not be the smartest pet in Chen Zhao's house, but he was the most considerate. He would protect every member of the family at all times. Children swimming is good for their health. That was why Chen Zhao never stopped Jerlin from playing in the water with others. Mirror Lake was also very safe. There were no undercurrents or whirlpools. Chen Zhao could let her play freely without worry. Chen, do you think our child will be a boy or a girl? I don't know. Do you want it to be a boy or a girl? Either. Don't you care about our child? Chen Zhao was about to cry. He answered seriously. Chen Zhao didn't care about gender. Plus, he didn't know whether Fei Lai was pregnant with a boy or a girl. How was he supposed to answer? I hope it's a boy and a girl. Chen Zhao finally thought of an answer. This answer shouldn't be wrong, right? Two at once. Do you want me to die of pain? Then one is enough, Chen Zhao said with a bitter smile. No, two at once, Fei Lai said. Chen Zhao sighed. A woman's heart was indeed unfathomable. Especially a pregnant woman. You should never guess what she was thinking in her heart. Because it was impossible to guess. Just then, a motorcade suddenly appeared outside. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai turned around and saw Yura get out of the car. She screamed and rushed to Mirror Lake. Brother, sister Fei Lai, I'm here. Mom's behind me. Yura's face was full of joy. When she saw Jerlin in the lake, she exclaimed in surprise. Wow! Brother, is that your daughter? Hearing that his mother was here too, Chen Zhao couldn't help but stand up. Mom! Yura's mother had already walked over, although her expression was calm. Her expression was calm, but there was a hint of excitement in her eyes. 2 days ago, she'd heard that Chen Zhao had a daughter. She'd wanted to come that day, but she was a bit scared. After all, Chen Zhao wasn't that close to her. Chapter 8:14. Mom's gaze was already on the surface of the lake. She looked at the elf waving her limbs in the water. Chen Zhao, Yura said she hasn't been here for a long time. I brought her here today. Is it convenient here? Mom, Feilai's pregnant. I'm afraid I can't take care of Yura. Feilai's pregnant too. Mom's eyes burned even hotter as she looked at Feilai's belly. Feilai's belly was not visible yet, but Feilai's face was already bright red. She lowered her head, not daring to look at Mom. The relationship between Chen Zhao and his mother had always been lukewarm. But when Mom heard that Chen Zhao had a daughter, she could not sit still anymore. After hesitating for 2 days, he finally used Yura as an excuse to come here to see his granddaughter. Mom sat on the side and chatted with Chen Zhao and Feilai. However, her eyes kept shifting to the surface of the lake. She kept looking at Jerlin, who was playing with Yura. What's your daughter's name? Jerlin. What's her Chinese name? Chen Jerlin. Isn't your name too casual? It's okay. How old is she? Less than 2 months. In less than 2 months, you put her in the water? It's okay. She's good at swimming. Mom looked at Jerlin, afraid that she would sink into the water. When little Jerlin was tired, Yura carried her to the shore. Mom was already wiping Jerlin's body with a towel. Jerlin would always reach out to touch strangers' faces. It was the same for her grandmother. She would reach out, wanting to grab Mom's face. Mom didn't say it, but Chen Zhao could feel that she really liked Jerlin. Mom brought some gifts for Chen Zhao this time. They were all children's things from toys to baby food. Chen Zhao felt that he wouldn't be able to finish them even if they expired. Feilai, rest well. I'll come see you in a few days. Okay, Mayam. Take care. Of course, when Mom said a few days, she actually came again the next day. She brought many things for Feilai, such as ginseng and deer antler. They were all sent to Chen Zhao's house. She also took the chance to get close to Jerlin. She stayed for a few hours before leaving. Stephen and Rasfa arrived not long after his mother left. They also brought a lot of gifts. Chen, where's my goddaughter? Where's little Jerlin? Play in the lake, Chen Zhao said, pointing outside. What? You and Feilai are here, and you're leaving little Jerlin alone in the lake? You're too much. What if something happens? Stephen immediately panicked and rushed out. However, he saw little Jerlin playing happily in the lake, and her soft voice could be heard from time to time. Even if you drown 100 times, little Jerlin will be fine. This little fellow is born with the ability to swim, but she's still too young. That's my daughter. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. She's also my goddaughter, Stephen said, not giving in at all. You and Rasfa aren't here today to discuss how to raise our daughter, are you? Do you remember what we told you yesterday? Stephen asked in a low voice. Yes, I remember. Are you serious? Yes. Stephen nodded. Rasfa and I thought about it. If it's just the scene on the yacht, and then expand the plot, it's too little. So we plan to fill in some ourselves. How exactly? We'll hire some people to kidnap, and then rescue them. We'll make it as real as possible. I don't have to participate, right? No, we need you. You need to be responsible for rescuing us. Chen Zhao rubbed his forehead. Stephen and Rasfa were really capable. They could also think of something like this. When do we do this? Chen Zhao asked. Wait for a while. We can't do these things consecutively. We need to wait until the influence of the previous video drops. Then, we can use this kidnapping to make it more popular. Alright, give me a concrete plan to implement. At present, this was the only thought in both of their minds. They didn't have a plan for how to do it. After the two left, Chen Zhao and Feilai left with little Jerlin. Feilai was bored staying at home every day. They planned to go out to eat today, but before they could leave the town, a figure dashed out from the roadside. Thud! Ah! Chen, you hit someone. Chen Zhao rubbed his forehead. The person lying in front of the car wasn't just anyone. It was Lin, who'd tried to blackmail his car 2 days ago. He'd also used the same method today. Chun, aren't you going to get out and take a look? Fei Lai was a bit scared. I just want to run over, Chen Zhao said with a cold expression. Lin rubbed her head and climbed up from the ground. Seeing that the driver hadn't gotten out after so long, she was a bit impatient. What's wrong with you? Get out. You hit me. Do you know that? Lin knocked on the hood of the car. Because they were driving an Aston Martin today, Lin didn't recognize the small truck from the day before. It was also dark in the car, so Lin couldn't see Chen Zhao clearly. But when Chen Zhao got out, Lin's expression froze. How come it's you? Lin didn't expect that the person driving the luxury car was Chen Zhao. If you don't leave, I'll call the police or tell your parents. Chen Zhao looked at Lin with a dark expression. Go tell them. They can't do anything to me anyway. Give me $500 and I'll let it go. He'd given $500 last time, but he wouldn't be so lucky this time. Chen Zhao picked up the phone and called the police. Hello, police station? Seeing that Chen Zhao really called the police, Lin immediately shouted, Kid, you've got balls. We'll see. Lin left cursing. Chen Zhao really wanted to run over this little bitch with his car. Suddenly, Chen Zhao felt a gaze again. It was the same person from last time, but this time, he was standing in the forest. When Chen Zhao returned to the car, Fei Lai asked, Is that girl from town? Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. Let's go. I'm hungry. When they entered the restaurant, Chen Zhao saw a few police cars coming from outside. Something seems to have happened in town again. Usually, there would only be so many police cars at the same time when there was a case in town. It has nothing to do with us, Chen Zhao said indifferently. But in his heart, he wondered if something had happened to the girl called Lin. Just then, Lin suddenly rushed into the restaurant from outside. The police also rushed in. Chapter 8:15. That girl's so strong, Fei Lai whispered. Lin wanted to escape, but just then, the police took out their guns. Bang! Lin's calf was shot, and she fell to the ground. Zhilin, who'd been sleeping soundly, was startled awake by the gunshot. Fei Lai immediately coaxed Zhilin. Chen Zhao frowned. 2 police officers walked up and handcuffed Lin. Lin's face was filled with pain, but when she saw Chen Zhao, she suddenly felt hope. He can prove it, he can prove that I... Lin pointed at Chen Zhao and yelled. I was with him the whole time just now. Sir, can you please go to the police station? I'm not free. Chen Zhao rejected the police's request directly. By then, Fei Lai had also calmed Zhilin down. Excuse me, did something happen? Fei Lai asked. Her parents were found dead at home. When we arrived at the scene, we realized that she didn't see her parents' bodies, and was even watching TV. We have reason to suspect that she killed her parents. Fei Lai looked at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao didn't speak. 2 days ago, Lin's parents had invited him to treat Lin. Chen Zhao felt that her parents' attitude toward Lin was a bit strange, but he couldn't tell what exactly was strange. At first, Chen Zhao didn't take it to heart, but now that he thought about it, he found it strange. Plumber and Sandra seemed to be afraid of their daughter. Was it fear? Chen Zhao couldn't tell. Also, Lin had said before that her parents couldn't control her. When were they killed? Chen Zhao asked. The neighbors reported that they saw her parents at 5:40 p.m., so they should have been killed after 5:40 p.m. Chen Zhao looked at Lin. Lin's eyes were filled with pleading. If it was at 5:40, then it shouldn't be her. 30 minutes ago, when my girlfriend and I left home, we met her on the road. The parking recorder in our car recorded it clearly. It should take 20 minutes to get to her house from where we met, and 40 minutes to and fro. Plus, she was walking, so it's even more impossible for her to meet us at the place where we met, and then return home, after killing her parents. She probably wouldn't make it in time. Also, my girlfriend and I decided to come out for dinner at the last minute. She wouldn't have waited for us on that road, and purposely create an alibi. My leg hurts. I need treatment. Lin immediately shouted. You police are enforcing the law violently. I want to sue you. I want you to compensate. Chen Zhao glanced at Lin. He was indeed like this. Chen Zhao had already said what he needed to say. As for Lin's outcome, and whether he would be convicted. It had nothing to do with him. Of course, from a logical point of view. At the same time, it was also from the perspective of time. She probably wasn't the one who killed her parents. Then, Chun Zhao gave the USB drive of the car recorder to the police. Chun, do you think that girl really killed her parents? I don't know. I don't think so, Chun Zhao answered. But how can she still be so calm when facing her parents' bodies? This was something Fei Lai couldn't understand. Chun Zhao didn't find it strange. After all, there were all kinds of birds in a big forest. Fei Lai had a close relationship with her parents. But not all parents and children have an intimate relationship. As the saying went, even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. This was true everywhere. Of course, Chun Zhao didn't want to say it so clearly. He would rather Fei Lai keep her kindness forever. Chun Zhao suddenly thought of the man who had met his eyes twice in the past. Was it that person? However, that man didn't seem very likely in terms of time. Lin had been cleared of suspicion. She was now receiving treatment in the hospital. One of her feet was hung on a shelf, and she was playing with her phone. As for her parents' deaths, she didn't feel sad at all. Just then, a doctor wearing a mask walked in with his head lowered. Lin put down her phone and frowned at the doctor. Michael, it's you? The person took off his mask and revealed his face. It was the person who had been wandering around Lin for a few days. You killed my parents. Not me, Michael said. I didn't kill your parents. I'm here to take you away. I'm not going anywhere. They're the ones who killed your parents. They already know you're here. They'll probably come for you soon. Do you want to go back to that place? They killed my parents. Yes. Now come with me immediately. How many of them are there? Lin said. If there's only one person, we can kill him together. I don't know. I only found one. At that moment, the door opened again. A nurse came in from outside. However, this nurse was tall and had a cold aura around her. Michael instantly raised his hand and shot the dagger at the nurse. The nurse caught Michael's dagger with her 2 fingers. The nurse threw the dagger back at Michael. Just then, the leaflet on Lin's body was suddenly lifted, and a dagger was thrown in her hand. It deflected the dagger that was shot at Michael. Let's go. Lin shouted and jumped off the bed. At the same time, she smashed the glass and jumped down from the 3rd floor. She landed safely on the ground without any injury. Michael followed closely behind and landed on the ground. Michael glanced at Lin and asked, Your leg injury? It's been healed for a long time. Then why are you still in the hospital? Did you expect them to come looking for you? Yes. Lin nodded. The drug is still working. I need to find a quiet place to rest and wait for them to come. Michael looked upstairs. The woman disguised as a nurse did not jump down to chase them. Your drug is still working? Michael asked in surprise. Yes. I stopped in the 4th period. I'm in the 5th period now, Lin said. Michael looked at Lin with a twinkle in his eyes. No wonder they're after you. But I should also thank them. They helped me kill my parents. They helped me do what I couldn't do, Lin said with a smile. So what do we do now? Michael asked. Find a place to stay first. It's not safe here, Lin said. By the way, do you have a car? No. Chapter 8:16. Fei Lai, I don't think you need to do this. What do you mean? You're not even a month pregnant. Why do you have to be like a 7 or 8-month-old woman, holding her stomach with one hand and supporting her waist with the other? Don't you think it's more professional? Professional for what? A professional pregnant woman? Chun Zhao covered his face speechless. Fei Lai glanced at him. Chun Zhao happened to meet her gaze. Why was there a sense of superiority in Fei Lai's eyes? You men will never be able to experience the anticipation of being a mother. You can't understand how it feels to be a father either. Pfft. Man, you only gave up 1 sperm. Fei Lai looked at Chun Zhao. I gave up for 10 months. It was said that pregnancy could change a woman's personality. In the past, Chun Zhao had scoffed at it, but now he believed it. Fei Lai had completely turned into a battle-hungry little tiger. Fine, you're pregnant, so you're the biggest. Darling, don't forget that I've been working hard in the 10 months before you got pregnant. So I didn't give up any less than you did. You didn't work hard for 10 months. You enjoyed it for 10 months. We should recognize this fact. Do you know why lions never hunt on the African savanna? Chen Zhao looked at Fei Lai. Because lions have a low rate of fertilization. The male needs a lot of effort. Maybe 30 or 40 times a day. So we can't deny the lion's efforts. Don't you think so? You're not a lion. How do you know that lions don't enjoy the process? Enjoyment and hard work don't conflict. It's like how I work hard to earn money, but I also enjoy the process of earning money. Let's use modern medicine as an example. In a woman's lifetime, there are about 400 to 500 mature follicles that ovulate, while a man can produce trillions of sperm in his lifetime. In other words, as long as enough sperm are collected and preserved, a man's gender or species can completely disappear, but a woman can't. Chen Zhao was dumbfounded. In the past, Fei Lai had never understood such knowledge. Why did she even understand such unorthodox knowledge after getting pregnant? Don't be surprised. I've read a lot of books about this in order to get pregnant. I also know that bone marrow stem cells can be used to induce and cultivate sperm or eggs. However, this technology is not perfect, so it's not within the scope of our discussion. Chen Zhao's face twitched. He was really speechless. Chen Zhao even wondered if Fei Lai had considered it before. If you can't get pregnant naturally, look for technical support. Just then Ethan called. Chen Zhao was overjoyed. It was a timely call. He could finally move on from his argument with Fei Lai. Hey Ethan, what's up? I have a client, $20,000. Do you have time? I'll send you the address. Okay, send me the address. $20,000 was already the lowest price he could accept. But this time, Chen Zhao could not wait to go to the client's home. Fei Lai, I'm going out to meet a client. Okay, go ahead. It's getting dark, so be careful on the road. Bring me some snacks when you come back. Chen Zhao chuckled. Ever since Fei Lai got pregnant, her gluttony became more obvious. In the past, Fei Lai could eat so much without gaining weight. That was because she was a member of the coastal rescue team. Even if he didn't save anyone, he still had to train a lot. Basically, the more you eat, the more calories you burn. But it was different now. She now had a double neck. Of course, it was good that pregnant women could eat. Some had small appetites because of their eating habits. They would still be as thin as a bamboo pole after 3 or 4 months. Their belly would only swell at 6 months. This type of pregnant woman was extremely harmful to herself and the child in her womb. Apart from the environment they grew up in, a person's health was actually decided from the moment they were born. Pregnant women like these had a high chance of giving birth to an unhealthy child. Moreover, the child's development and growth would be affected too. So Chen Zhao would satisfy whatever Fei Lai wanted to eat. Of course, he still controlled some special foods and nutrients. For example, he had a strict control over sugar intake. He put away almost all the Western medicine in the house. Chen Zhao drove the car to a desolate street. There was no light in the entire street. Chen Zhao touched his nose. The people hiding in this almost desolate street were either fugitives or desperados. Chen Zhao was starting to worry if he could collect the $20,000 consultation fee. If it was when he had just arrived in America, he would probably turn around and leave. But now, Chen Zhao was not afraid anymore. So a person's courage was directly related to their ability. Chen Zhao carried the case and walked toward a 2-3-story building. In this small building, there were no external walls, and wind could pass through all 4 sides. Just then, a gun was pointed at the back of Chen Zhao's head. Who are you? Where's my patient? Chen Zhao asked. You're a doctor? Yes. Walk forward. The room in the corner. Chen Zhao did not move. Our rule is to collect the money first. If you keep talking, I'll let you collect a bullet first. Unfortunately, the man's words did not scare Chen Zhao. Still standing there, Chen Zhao said calmly, Since you called a doctor, it should be you or your friend who needs treatment. If you kill me now, you won't be able to find another doctor. I can promise you that. As an illegal doctor, there were certain risks. But most of the time, the risks did not come from the client. Clients who could seek treatment from illegal doctors usually followed the rules. They knew very well that if they hurt the doctor, they would be completely isolated. The person behind Chen Zhao hesitated, but in the end, he still lowered his gun. You're not afraid that I'll kill you? Earning money is more important to me, Chen Zhao answered. Here's the 20,000 we agreed on. Chen Zhao turned around and saw the man in the darkness. It was the person he had seen in the distance in Mountain Town. However, the man did not recognize Chen Zhao. Where's my client? Chen Zhao asked. Follow me. Michael brought Chen Zhao into the room. Chen Zhao saw that it was a room with only a mattress. A woman lay on the mattress. Her name was Lin. Chapter 8:17. Chen Zhao looked at Lin, who was covered in wounds. Then he looked back at Michael. Did you guys have too much fun playing S&M? We're not in that kind of relationship. Lin stared at Chen Zhao with a dark expression. Can you treat me or not? Chen Zhao walked up and started treating Lin's injuries. Lin's injuries were all caused by punches and kicks. The person who'd done it was very vicious. To Chen Zhao's surprise, Lin didn't cry out in pain even once. Chen Zhao remembered that Lin had tried to blackmail him twice. He'd braked in time each time, but Lin had slammed her head into his car. This woman was clearly the type that cared more about money than her life. How many cars did you blackmail today? How about we work together? You blackmail and I treat you. We can definitely earn more money like this. Shut up. Lin stared at Chen Zhao coldly. Did you kill your parents? Chen Zhao asked curiously. No. Then was it him? No, Lin said indifferently. Lin said indifferently. But even if they are not dead, I will kill them one day. Is your relationship that bad? Chen Zhao didn't want to educate her. It was just pure gossip. He just wanted to know why their relationship was so bad. She wasn't even moved by her parents' deaths. At least, Chen Zhao couldn't be so heartless. For example, Chen Zhao himself. Even though his relationship with her mother had always been distant. But if her mother passed away one day, Chen Zhao couldn't be indifferent either. Lin's relationship with her parents wasn't as simple as distant. They were more like enemies. What does it have to do with you? I'm just curious. Chen Zhao applied ointment to the bruises and bandaged some places. Okay, don't do anything you like to do in the next few days. We're not that kind of relationship, Michael said from the door. You don't need me to explain. I'm not interested in your relationship, Chen Zhao said. Okay, I should go. Bye. Michael glanced at Chen Zhao's departing figure. Should I make him disappear? Michael asked. Never mind, no need. Lin shook her head. Chen Zhao didn't want any trouble. Being an illegal doctor was a high-risk industry. Chen Zhao still remembered Ethan's warning when he first entered the profession. Of course, Chen Zhao often broke these rules. However, as long as the patients paid honestly, Chen Zhao would do his best to treat them. Chen Zhao didn't walk quickly. He wasn't sure if Lin and Michael would kill him. If they attacked, Chen Zhao would fight back. But until they left the building, Lin and Michael did not do anything. Just then, he heard gunshots from upstairs. Chen Zhao frowned. He was about to turn around, but then he stopped. Forget it, it has nothing to do with me. He wasn't familiar with them. And he wasn't even related to them. No matter what happened above, it had nothing to do with him. Chen Zhao returned to the car. As soon as the car started moving, a figure rushed to the front of the car. Dong. Fuck, don't tell me you want the consultation fee back? Chen Zhao didn't plan to get out. As expected, the man stood up again. It was a woman but not Lin. The woman was covered in blood. She must have been fighting with Lin and Michael just now, right? Anyway, he didn't hit her. Just as Chen Zhao was hesitating about whether to get out and check, another gunshot rang out. Then the woman's head tilted to the side. Blood shot out from her temple, and she fell to the ground. Chen Zhao looked at the building 30 meters away. Lin was standing at the edge of the building, gun in hand. But she didn't seem to want to come down and kill Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao just wanted to leave this troublesome place. The $20,000 wasn't easy to earn. Lin had clearly joined some organization. Her shooting skills were probably similar to Gaia's. California was a large desert, and the American people built cities in this desert. The south was dry and lacked water. The geology was hard rock, unlike the Sahara Desert, which was completely desertified. There were still some military fortresses under some of the wastelands in California. Some military fortresses have been forgotten long ago. Even the military couldn't find any records about them. Outside the northern part of Los Angeles was a large area of broken rocks. This had once been the military's weapon testing ground. In fact, during the Cold War, the military had done a lot of weapon testing inside the country and in the Pacific Ocean. Many places were restricted areas. It wasn't that the government forbade people from entering, but they were dangerous areas. Base BA-12 had once existed as an underground military base. There were many underground bases along the coast of America. During the Cold War, even the American government thought that the war would break out and destroy the world. So they built many such bases. This kind of underground military base had a super strong defense. The standard was to withstand a nuclear explosion with the equivalent of 10 million tons of TNT. But after the Cold War, everything calmed down. The government also reduced military spending, which led to the abandonment of a large number of underground military bases. Now Base BA-12 had been completely forgotten. There wasn't any evidence of the base's existence in the files. Also, no one knew that the base had already been occupied. It wasn't a military base anymore. Instead, it had become a laboratory. Advanced equipment had already covered this underground laboratory. It was sealed and hidden, and the surrounding environment was dangerous. Outsiders wouldn't be able to detect the existence of the underground laboratory. The main people in charge of the laboratories were currently in a meeting. Dominic, what's going on with our important experimental subject escaping? Chapter 8:18. Reactivation of the drug? The supervisor's eyes lit up as he looked at Dominic. This has never happened in the past experiments. Yes. That's why I want to continue my research when I get back, and see if I can find the reason on L-74. Perhaps this L-74 will be the key to our breakthrough. Do we need to send more weapons? After all, L-74 has grown to the 5th stage. 2 Weapon X might not be able to bring back the living L-74. Not at the moment. Weapon X is specialized for combat. It's completely different from L-74. Even in the same stage, there's a world of difference in combat power. Then regarding the recovery of L-74, I'll leave it to you, Dominic. I hope to see L-74 as soon as possible. I understand. Also, our lab has been short of manpower recently. The lifespan of the researchers under our control is too short. All of them have less than 3 years of life. We need to increase the number of new people, the supervisor said. Supervisor, since the researchers are already trapped here, we don't necessarily have to use Agent X to control them. As long as we give them a little threat, they will listen to us obediently. Most of the researchers' physical fitness is very poor, and the difference between them and the test subjects is too great. It is impossible for them to withstand the effects of Agent X. Basically, the first and second stages are already the limit. Drug X was the genetic drug they developed and researched. This drug could greatly improve the various functions of the human body. However, this drug was not completely without side effects. Drug X had a total of 8 stages. After a normal person took it, there would be a periodic growth process. Each growth would greatly improve the functions of the human body. However, this growth was not completely without a price. The human body was too mysterious. The improvement of physical functions often meant that some aspects would decrease. For example, the reduction of lifespan. This was also the weakness of Drug X. Agent X is not only used to control them, but it can also further improve their intelligence. Although the usage period is a little short, in these 2 to 3 years, the research results of a researcher who has used Agent X may be something that can never be achieved in a lifetime under normal circumstances. Another bald professor spoke up. He was also one of the researchers who was captured here. However, he successfully broke through the limit and reached the 4th stage. At the 4th stage of Drug X, the lifespan would return to normal and would no longer be as short-lived as before. Therefore, he became one of the main people in charge of the lab and came into contact with the core secrets of the lab. That's why we need new researchers as well, the supervisor said. The bald professor took the initiative to say, I've already made a list. Supervisor, please take a look. The supervisor took the list and scanned it. This Chinese Chen Zhao, are you sure he can do it? He hasn't done any research work. He's a professor at UCLA and has superb medical skills. He's also a talent that our lab needs. He's also an illegal doctor and is close to us. So it's very convenient for us to bring him here and replenish the manpower in our lab as soon as possible. All right, I'll leave this matter to you. Bang bang. A Weapon X fell at Michael's feet. At this moment, Michael was exhausted. He had almost been killed by a weapon. The difference between the 4th and 5th stages of Agent X was simply too great. What's more, he was an L-type experimental subject, while his opponent was an X-type weapon. He and Lin were found by 2 Weapon XS, and both parties engaged in a bitter battle. Michael's super physique had no advantage in front of Weapon X. His strength, speed, and combat awareness were all lacking. It was the same for Lin. They were both in the 5th stage of Agent X, but Weapon X was specially bred. And was completely different from them. Previously, the two of them had to work together to barely kill a Weapon X. This time, they had only managed to do so after carefully setting up a trap. This time, they were found by 2 Weapon X. Michael had thought that he was dead for sure. However, Lin, who had been suppressed earlier, suddenly counterattacked and killed Weapon X. Then he helped Michael kill the second Weapon X. Michael sat on the ground exhausted. His face was swollen and covered in wounds. He didn't want to move anymore. Lin walked out from the shadows. Michael looked at Lin. How did you do it? How could you defeat Weapon X in a head-on battle? The 5th stage of Agent X has an extremely strong learning ability. The fighting techniques they use, as long as I use them once, I can basically learn them. They aren't absolutely invincible. Of course, when he didn't kill me immediately, it meant that I had a chance to fight back. Lin also sat on the ground in exhaustion. Although she said it was easy, it was not a big deal. But in reality, this battle wasn't easy either. After all, Weapon X was on the same level as her. And she was only a late learner. All the high-end combat techniques that she knew were learned from Weapon X. Moreover, this kind of victory was very tricky. In a battle between a student and a teacher, when both sides were on the same level, the outcome would be influenced by many external factors. It wasn't just one point that could win. Environment, emotions, and psychological activity would all affect the outcome. I'm very tired. I need to rest. Lin slowly closed her eyes. Hi, Chenjiao Feilai. Leonardo moved a large pile of baby products. Ever since he heard that Chenjiao had a daughter, and that Feilai was pregnant, Leonardo had bought these things. After asking his colleagues, Leonardo bought these things and came over. Chenjiao and Feilai didn't know whether to laugh or cry when they saw Leonardo's gifts. Stephen, Rasfa, and his mother had all given the same kind of gift before. Now, with Leonardo's help, Jerlin's things were more than the two of them combined. Alright, since it was a gift from a guest, there was no reason to reject or dislike it. Feilai came out with a few cans of beer. She didn't allow Chenjiao to drink at home. But since the guest was here, he couldn't just reject it. Don't drink too much, Feilai warned. Okay. Chenjiao nodded with a smile and tossed a can of beer to Leonardo. Oh Chen, do you remember the missing girl Lin? Yeah, I do. What's wrong? Chapter 819. Plumber and Sandra are both gamblers and drug addicts. They owe a lot of money, Leonardo said. And a year ago, when Lin disappeared, they actually paid off most of their debts. Of course, a year has passed, and they owe a lot of money again. I still don't understand what this has to do with Lin's bad relationship with them. I went to the bank to check their accounts. In September last year, they suddenly received a transfer of $500,000. I still don't understand. They sold their daughter. In the end, Leonardo still told him the truth. Chenjiao gasped. It was hard to imagine something like selling a daughter. Moreover, it happened to an adult who already had his own consciousness. It was hard to imagine such a thing happening. It was hard to imagine. Who bought her? Don't tell me it's an organization that sells women to Europe? I don't know. It's an anonymous account. I can't find any more information, but it shouldn't be that kind of organization. At least, when Lin came back last month, there were no records of her leaving or entering the country. Whatever. It has nothing to do with me. Chen Zhao shook his head. He now somewhat understood why Lin would treat her parents like that. She didn't even shed a single tear for their deaths. Then he thought about it. Her parents were both gamblers and drug addicts. What kind of environment would she grow up in? Don't say that no matter what, they would always be her parents. People who could say something like that were easy to say. For example, there was a local talk show host with the surname Zhou. Her biological parents had sold her to someone else when she was young. When she grew up, she had to recognize her biological parents and ask the grown-up girl to pay for a house for her son. But this Zhou guy said that she would only recognize adoptive parents and not biological parents. The girl was ungrateful. However, reality also proved that this Zhou guy was using a moral standard that he didn't even have to ask the girl to be a ridiculous moral standard. As the saying went, "If you betray me, I won't shed a tear for you." This was about love, but it could also be used to refer to other emotions. However, this also made Chen Zhao feel that he should treat Zhilin and the unborn child better. Fei Lai was also listening to Chen Zhao and Leonardo's conversation. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai exchanged glances and smiled knowingly. There was no need for too many words. One look was enough. "I'm leaving. Every time I see the two of you making eye contact, my heart feels stifled. When can I find my other half?" After Leonardo left, Chen Zhao called again. "Chen, I have a client. $50,000. Okay, send me the address." Chen Zhao picked up his toolbox, kissed Fei Lai goodbye and left. While driving, Chen Zhao looked at the address Ethan had sent. Why is it in the suburbs? It's so far away. The journey alone took more than an hour. When Chen Zhao arrived at the designated location, there were no houses around. There wasn't even a car. Fuck me, could it be that I've been fooled? There were weeds all around, and as far as the eye could see, it was all dark yellow rock fragments. There was almost no green at all. Just as he was about to leave, a car came from behind and stopped beside him. A bald old man got out of the car and walked up to Chen Zhao. "Hello, are you Mr. Chen?" "I am." "Who's this?" "I'm Stellan. My boss sent me to take you to see him." "Your boss? Where is he?" "Because my boss can't meet people, we gave him a fake address." "Please follow me," Stellan said. "Take my car." "What about my car?" "Just here." "No one will come here," Stellan said. "Don't worry about losing your car." "Okay." Chen Zhao got into Stellan's car and realized that there were two people in the back seat. "Mr. Chen, because my boss has a special identity, it's not convenient for outsiders to know his location, so I need your cooperation." "How?" Chen Zhao asked. "Please put on this mask." The backseat person gave Chen Zhao a black mask. Chen Zhao frowned. "This isn't part of our agreement. I've never accepted such a ridiculous request. Mr. Chen, please understand." "I don't understand," Chen Zhao said. "I won't meet your boss. Please stop the car." "I can increase the price. How about $100,000? Chen Zhao still refused. "I don't need this client." $200,000. Chen Zhao hesitated, but he still shook his head. "I refuse." $200,000 was indeed a lot of money. However, covering his eyes would make Chen Zhao feel very insecure. The two people in the back seat looked at him with evil intentions. "How about this? I can allow you to go with your eyes open, but that place is a bit special. After you go in, you have to listen to my arrangements." Chen Zhao thought about it and nodded. Sure. As long as he didn't cover his head, everything was fine. Stellan didn't let the two Weapon XS in the backseat fight, because he was worried that they would go too far. After all, Weapon XS were all killing techniques. He was really afraid that they would kill Chen Zhao. Right now the lab was lacking manpower. Stellan didn't want the newbie to be in trouble before he could do anything. Chen Zhao looked out the window. The place he'd stopped at was already very remote. However, it was even more remote. There weren't any buildings along the way. Chen Zhao thought that Stellan's boss was some escaped criminal, which was why he hid in such a remote place. Just then the car stopped, but there was still nothing around. "We're here," Stellan said. "Here? Where is it?" Just then, the gravel ground in front of them suddenly split open, revealing a tunnel. "So high-tech. What do you do here?" Chen Zhao asked curiously. "Lab," Stellan said. We need to go through the disinfection tunnel later, so we need your cooperation. Okay. Chen Zhao didn't think too much about it. He looked around. Stellan brought Chen Zhao into an isolation room and gestured at the camera inside. Whoosh, whoosh. A large amount of gas suddenly sprayed out from the top of the isolation room. Chen Zhao pinched his nose. He felt that his mind was a bit slow. Then a strong wave of drowsiness hit him. Oh no! Chen Zhao reacted, but it was too late. He fell to the ground with a thud. A few people came in. Stellan looked at Chen Zhao on the ground. Impressive. He can actually last 10 seconds. That can even hypnotize an elephant. Dr. Stellan, is it because he's strong? Chapter 820. Lin opened her eyes. Michael was overjoyed to see Lin wake up. Lin, you're awake. You've been asleep for 24 hours. Have I been asleep for that long? Lin looked at her hands. Michael noticed that Lin's gaze was strange. She seemed to be observing her own hands. It was as if she was observing a strange body. Lin, what's wrong? Me? I'm fine. I've never been better. Lin's whole body relaxed. Michael felt a little afraid of Lin. Let's go, Lin said. Go. Where are we going? Home, Lin said. Home? Do we have a home? Yes, of course. To get back our things, and to repay the family members who pushed us to the operating table. You want to take revenge? Michael's expression changed. He never wanted to return to that laboratory. That place was a nightmare for him. He just wanted to escape with Lin to a place where no one knew them, and live out his life. Lin looked at Michael. You don't want to go with me? Lin, it's too dangerous there. There are countless weapons there. Essentially, we are the same as them. We are all people who have been injected with drug X. So in terms of ability, there is not much difference between us, Lin said. Lin said, what we lack is experience, and our brains can operate at a high speed, so learning is easy for us. Although you are in the 4th stage of Agent X, and do not have the ability to learn instantly like the 5th stage, you are still smarter than the average person. On the contrary, those Weapon X, compared to us, their biggest weakness is that they have never come into contact with the outside world. Their way of thinking is different from us, so as long as we use the right method, we can defeat them. One bullet can kill them. Lin looked at her hands. And I am no longer who I used to be. Michael looked at Lin. He was a little afraid of Lin. The current Lin. That completely different attitude and tone, as well as the unfamiliar gaze. It made Michael feel that Lin was a different person. Are you still Lin? Of course I am. It's just that my brain knows how to operate more efficiently. Lin said indifferently. If you refuse, I will go alone. I will go with you. Michael finally made up his mind. Agent X has been consumed. My heartbeat. His heartbeat is slightly slower than normal. Body temperature. His body temperature is 44 degrees Celsius higher than normal. Breathe. 18 times per minute, within the normal range. Brain waves. The brain waves are stable. Is there any resistance to Agent X? No resistance. Stellan looked at Chen Zhao in surprise. I didn't think that this Chinese guy wouldn't have any resistance to Agent X. His body is very healthy. I can't even find the slightest injury. I'm really looking forward to seeing his expression when he realizes that he has become stronger. I hope he can be more honest and not suffer too much. Chen Zhao woke up slowly. He had a very comfortable sleep. He hadn't slept so well in a long time. The last time he slept so soundly was before Jerlin came. Ever since Jerlin came, Chen Zhao would wake up every night and go to the side room to check on her. This was a matter of habit, even though there were lesser demons watching over him. Nevertheless, Chen Zhao still needed to check on her every night. The only thing that annoyed Chen Zhao was that this comfortable bed didn't belong to him. Chen Zhao realized that he was in a glass isolation room. Moreover, there was another person in the room. The person had his arms under his head and was lying on the bed with his legs crossed. He was a tall and skinny man. Hi, you're awake. I'm your roommate. You can call me Emil. Can you tell me where this is? Also, what's going on? It's obvious that you and I have been kidnapped. Kidnapped? Me? I've been kidnapped? Chen Zhao asked in surprise, his mouth hanging open. Yes, Emil said. I'm from Switzerland. What about you? China. Chen Zhao looked around. Can you explain the situation? I don't know the specifics. I was tricked into coming here. And then they gave me a strange potion that made me stronger than before. I can now lift a barbell weighing 150 kilograms. But I've been here for almost a month. I've been locked up here. And I've been waiting for you to come. Emil had been locked up for too long. He seemed to need someone to talk to, so he couldn't stop talking. Are you saying that we're lab rats? Definitely not just lab rats. I'm a Swiss geneticist. Before this, I worked for Switzerland's White Star Laboratory. If they wanted lab rats, they wouldn't have tricked me all the way here. Emil looked at Chen Zhao. You should be an expert in this field, right? Me? I'm just a doctor, an illegal doctor, Chen Zhao said. Okay, at least you're an expert in the medical field, so they probably didn't just use us as lab rats. Chen Zhao walked to the floor-to-ceiling glass and pressed it. There's no need to try. This is tempered glass, 20 centimeters thick. Even a bomb can't destroy it. I used that potion and my strength is close to a boxer of the same level. But I can't do anything to this glass. You only took it for a day, so you can't do anything either, Emil said. Also, there's sleeping gas in the room. Once the people monitoring the room find something wrong, they'll release the gas immediately. You slept for 24 hours, so you were hypnotized by the gas. Chen Zhao raised his head and looked at the monitor. Then he looked at the injector. Since it could hypnotize him last time, it would probably be the same this time. Chen Zhao had to behave for now. Since they'd captured him, he couldn't lock him here forever. They would bring him out eventually. He would think of something then. Chen Zhao waved at the camera and gave it the middle finger. So boring. Are there any entertainment facilities? Let's chat, Emil said. I'm hungry. Chen Zhao looked around. When is our dinner? Chapter 821. After 3 hours, he finally got through it. Usually, he couldn't even calm down for 30 minutes. He had to sit in the isolation room calmly for 3 hours. This kind of pain was unimaginable to others. Of course, what was more painful was that he would rather calm down. Because his roommate was a chatterbox. Chen Zhao even wanted to die. He stood up and walked to the monitor. Hey, can you change rooms for me? I don't want to stay here anymore. Can you change rooms for me? Chen, do you dislike me that much? Amber looked at Chen Zhao aggrieved. That's right. I dislike you. Can't I keep you company? Thank you for your family. I also thank you for asking on behalf of my family. Oh, is this how you Chinese greet each other? Amber asked sincerely. Help. Chen Zhao grabbed his hair. Stop bothering me. Let me be quiet for a while. How long is a while? Give me an accurate time. Chen Zhao's head was about to explode. He finally understood that Amber hadn't been bored for too long. He was a chatterbox with low EQ. At that moment, Stellan walked outside. Hello, Mr. Chen. Are you used to this place? Chen Zhao looked at Stellan, who was wearing a white coat. Not good at all. I haven't seen my girlfriend or daughter for 24 hours. You'll get used to it slowly. After all, you'll probably be here for the next few years. Ha, I bet that's impossible. Chen Zhao looked at Stellan. I'll leave here, catch you, and shove your head into the toilet. First, you have to take a dump, Amber added. Chen Zhao and Stellan both turned to look at Amber. Amber touched his nose, a bit embarrassed. I just wanted to remind you. Okay, I agree. Chen Zhao turned around and looked at Stellan. So, I think you should let us out now, and I'll pretend this never happened. I'll continue to stuff your head into the toilet, but at least I won't let Emil shit his shit. Ha, do you know what Agent X is? Don't change the subject. Drug X is a special medicine that is synthesized using electrolyte substances. It is different from the current Western medicine. Most Western medicine has chemical components, and the effects of Western medicine are either absorbed by the body or expelled from the body. After Drug X enters the human body, it will melt back into electrolyte substances. The first stage is to break the spirochete and recombine the DNA spirochete. After recombining the DNA, you will become smarter and stronger. Mr. Chen, I've checked your file. You're a very outstanding doctor with excellent medical skills. That's why I sincerely invite you to become a member of our team and complete the research of Agent X with me. Didn't you give me the X drug to drink? Why do you want to continue the research? That's an imperfect Agent X. If you can't grow to the 4th stage, then you'll most likely die from accelerated cell division. How long can we live? Amber asked. It won't be more than 4 years. Most of the time, it'll be 3 years. What do you mean by the 4th stage? If it's a perfect drug X, it can help an ordinary person grow into a Superman. This is the theoretical result. However, so far, the only person who has grown to the 7th stage has completely lost his sense of self. No one has ever grown to the 8th stage. Can we fly in the sky like Superman? Amber asked. Of course not. Everything we research is based on science. But our strength and resistance are almost 10 times that of a normal person. Then can the eyes shoot out infrared lasers? Emil asked. No. Then can we see through things? No. Flash hearing. No. Flash seeing. No. Then it's really boring. Chen Zhao nodded. I think so too. If we can't fly at supersonic speed, shoot lasers, see through things, and hear through things, what kind of Superman is that? Stellan's face darkened. These 2 guys were completely unreasonable. I'll give you 2-3 days to think about it. If you're still stubborn after 3 days, I'll execute you. Our lab doesn't keep useless people. Before you execute us, can we have a full meal first? I'm hungry. Chen Zhao grinned. Stellan stared at him coldly. Finally, he said to his follower, get them something to eat. Chen, we only have 3 days left. I'm starting to miss my parents. You can listen to his request. That way, you can live for more than 3 days. No, I won't go against my ideals. What's your ideal? Justice. Forget it. We can't talk anymore. Just then the alarm went off. The red alarm kept spinning. Boom, boom. Suddenly 2 violent explosions rang out, and a wave of raging flames surged in from the exit outside. 3 people were blown away by the flames. Then 2 people came in. Lin and Michael. Chen Zhao looked at them. Lin and Michael looked at Chen Zhao too. Why are you here? Lin asked with a frown. It's a long story. Then make it short. Simply put, I've been captured. Lin looked at Chen Zhao. After thinking for a second, he pressed the passcode on the door. Tick, the door opened. Chen Zhao and Emil regained their freedom. Do you know how to use a gun? Lin asked. Without waiting for Chen Zhao's reply, Lin stuffed an automatic assault rifle into Chen Zhao and Emil's hands. You have to join us and help us destroy this lab. Can I not join? Emil asked carefully. Lin glanced at Emil coldly. What do you think? There's a lot of Weapon X here, Michael said. If you don't fight back, they'll kill you. Suddenly, Lin pointed his gun at Chen Zhao without any warning. Chen Zhao froze. Lin had already fired. But it wasn't aimed at Chen Zhao. Instead, it was aimed at the person running in from the tunnel behind Chen Zhao. Lin glanced at Chen Zhao. You should load your gun first. Oh. Chen Zhao pulled the barrel with force. Crack. The gun was damaged by Chen Zhao's pull. The barrel was pulled out. Chen Zhao froze. He'd become stronger again. Every time Chen Zhao's strength increased, it meant that he had to adapt to the new power again. Lin looked at Chen Zhao with a dark expression. Chen Zhao was also a bit embarrassed. This gun's quality is really bad. Chapter 822. Did Potion X work on him? Chen Zhao looked at his hands. He looked in front and back. Michael glanced at Chen Zhao. He felt that Chen Zhao's eyes were very similar to Lin's. But after thinking about it, he felt that it was impossible. There was too much of a difference between them. Let's go, Chen Zhao shouted. Let's go and stuff that Stellan's head in the toilet. That's right. We're going to poop first. Emmanuel raised his arms. Bang, bang, bang. Everyone's heads shrank back. Emmanuel's gun went off. Fuck, be careful. Give me your gun. Chen Zhao grabbed Emmanuel's gun. Lin walked in front. Michael, Chen Zhao, and Emmanuel were in charge of defending against attacks from other directions. But it was strange. It seemed that all the enemies were coming from the front. Chen Zhao had not fired a single shot yet. How scary was Lin's shooting? Anyone who poked their head out from the front would have a headshot in 0.1 seconds. He would not give them a chance to attack. Jolson held 2 desert eagles in his hands. Chen Zhao had heard that the desert eagle was not very useful. It was just that they were famous and looked cool. Actually, the desert eagle's lethality was not bad. If a bullet hit an adult's head, it would explode immediately. Back then, Kane's head was hit by a small caliber pistol. That was how he survived. If it had been the desert eagle that hit Kane's head, Chen Zhao would not have been able to save him. Even God would not have been able to save him. The biggest problem with the desert eagle was its weight and recoil. Adults had to hold the gun with both hands. Shooting with one hand would hurt the arm. However, this little bit of weight and recoil was nothing to Jolson. Lin never stopped walking. He shot one person at a time. But just then, when the 4 of them turned a corner, the sound of machine guns rang out in front of them. Fortifications had already been set up on the walkway around the bend. 2 machine guns were set up. They were waiting for the 4 of them to go over, so that they would be trapped. The 4 of them covered their heads and scurried back to the corner. Lin looked at the other 3 who were in a mess. Her eyes were full of disdain. The 3 of them were indeed unreliable. Jolson suddenly stretched his body and stepped on the wall with one foot. He used the force to jump up and swung his hand several times in a row. The machine gunners on the other side did not even have time to react before they were all shot in the head by Jolson. You can come out now. The 3 of them carefully followed behind Jolson. Lin began to quicken her pace. She did not want to delay any longer. She needed to end the battle as soon as possible. The longer it dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for her. The 3 people behind him looked at Lin as if he was the protagonist of a movie. Almost none of the bullets could hit her, and she could kill one person with each shot. Jolson rushed into a ring-shaped field with many doors around it. People kept rushing out of the door, and Jolson's bullets were even faster. She had used the Desert Eagle as a machine gun, and she had not missed her target. However, he suddenly realized that there were no more bullets. He was about to pick up the enemy's weapon from the ground. A figure suddenly descended from the sky, and a huge fist smashed towards Lin. Lin hurriedly raised his arms to block, and the opponent punched at Lin. Jolson stepped back and raised his head to look at the man. The big man who had suddenly appeared rushed towards Lin with large strides. Lin suddenly exerted force under her feet, and also rushed towards the big man. The moment the big man swung his fist again, Lin's body slid down, and in the process, she punched the big man's right rib. The big man felt pain, and his arm shrank slightly. Like an old snake coiling around a tree, Lin flipped over and landed on the big man's shoulder. Her legs coiled around the big man's neck, and then with a strangle, the big man's neck was broken. At this moment, the door behind the 4 of them suddenly closed. More than a dozen people in the same clothes came out of the 4 doors in front of the ring-shaped field. They were all empty-handed and looked at the 4 people coldly. These people were men and women, but their entire bodies were emitting a cold aura. They were like emotionless killing weapons. Hey Michael, they look cold. Did they just come out of an ice cellar? They are Weapon X, Michael said solemnly. They are all bought children from the lab, and then brainwashed them. Then they are strengthened with Potion X. They are proficient in any combat skills and fighting methods. Although they were empty-handed, they were much more threatening than the ordinary enemies Lin had dealt with before. Just then, the loudspeaker in the ring-shaped field sounded. Lin Beeves, you are very special. You are the most special creation since I built the lab. Perhaps you can become the first successful creation of the lab. Now there are 12 Weapon X from the 5th issue in front of you. Defeat them, or be killed by them. Lin, you can do it! Chen Zhao shouted. Lin turned around and saw Chen Zhao sitting on the stone bench beside him, waving his arms. Lin was so angry that her liver hurt. Only Michael came to her side. Lin, I will help you share the burden. Lin shook her head. No need. Go with them and hide behind them. You can't deal with these Weapon X people. But, Michael looked at Lin hesitantly. Amber came to Chen Zhao's side. Chen, is this a good idea? What's wrong with it? Why don't you go and help? Forget it. Amber was also a coward. We are actually conserving our strength. We need to attack at the crucial moment, like when we catch Sterling. Yes, you're right. We are not afraid. We are conserving our strength. Director, can Lin Bifus win? Stellan asked. You have to believe in our work, the director said. Lin and Beeves should have grown to the 6th issue. In just 1 month, she actually jumped 3 levels. I think she will succeed. Finally, the two sides moved. Lin En was as fierce as a cheetah. She was as fast as lightning, and as powerful as Mount Tai. The director's eyes lit up as he watched Lin En on the screen. The Weapon X people fell one after another. But the director was not unhappy at all. Instead, he was filled with joy. Perfect, really perfect. Completely different from those weapons. That speed, strength, and computer-like precision. Chapter 8:23. Crack. Michael and Emil saw that Chen Zhao was actually holding a handful of melon seeds and nibbling on them. The two were dumbfounded. Where did you get the melon seeds? Brother, this is a battlefield, okay? Please be more serious. In their eyes, Chen Zhao was a freak. He didn't know what fear was at all. It was such a thrilling battle. Wasn't he nervous at all? Wasn't he worried at all? One must know that Lin En was their strongest combat power. Once Lin En lost, they would not be able to escape death. Chen, aren't you scared? Well, Chen Zhao touched his chin. If Lin loses, I'll surrender. I won't die for now as their dog. Do you have to say such shameless words so calmly? One had to admit that Lin's battle stance was too beautiful. Every move he made was perfect, and every move was fatal. He didn't use any extra strength. He used the least amount of strength to get the most results. Finally, the last Weapon X was killed by Lin. Beautiful. Chen Zhao was the first to applaud. So beautiful. Lin looked at Chen Zhao, and his expression gradually turned cold. If you can't show your value, then you don't have to follow us anymore. Cheering for you doesn't count. Lin's eyes were cold. Do you think I'm joking with you? Aren't you? Fuck off. Lin snorted and pointed his dagger at Chen Zhao. Don't appear before me again. Otherwise, even if they don't kill you, I'll kill you. Miss Lin. This has nothing to do with me, right? Emil, why are you like this? Shouldn't we advance and retreat together? Chen Zhao pulled Emil over. We should be tougher. Chen Zhao took 2 steps forward and shouted. Do you think we can't leave without you guys? Ah, Chen. Emil was depressed. Chen Zhao had already made the decision for him. Lin and Michael didn't want to talk to Chen Zhao anymore. They turned and walked into a door in front. Chun, what do we do now? Find that old bastard Stellan, of course. Didn't we agree to stuff his head into the toilet? But can we find that old bastard alive? It doesn't matter. Anyway, the people here are looking for Lin and Michael. No one will care about the 2 of us, so the 2 of us are safer. Is that so? Of course. Then which of the 4 doors should we go through? I'll count the soldiers and generals. Whoever I count will be the one I count this. Aren't you being a little too casual? No, I'm proficient in China's metaphysics. This is a very scientific choice. Let's go, this is it. A male followed Chen Zhao into one of the doors. There was a straight path behind the door. Chen Zhao looked up at the surveillance camera in the corner and jumped up to tear it off. Where does this road lead to? I don't know, but there is no one, which means that my guess is correct. Everyone in this laboratory has gone to find Lin En, so it is more dangerous for us to follow Lin En. Don't you think my decision is very wise? I still feel that it's not good for us to be deserters. Just then, the 2 came to the corner of the path. They saw a fat man sitting at the end of the corner. Behind him was a cabin door. When the fat man saw Chen Zhao and a male walk over, he looked at them warily. What are you doing? Chen Zhao punched the fat man's face. Boss. The fat man fainted from the punch and curled up on the ground, unable to get up. What's behind this door? Let's go in and take a look. After the 2 entered the door, they immediately shouted in surprise. This is the laboratory's food storage room. Eat first. Chen Zhao picked up a packaged sausage and tore it open. A male didn't hold back. He had been locked up for a month. In this month, he hadn't had a good meal at all. Suddenly, a male smelled smoke and was shocked when he turned around. Chen Zhao had actually started a fire. What are you doing? Are you going to set it on fire? No, barbecue. Look at all these fresh things. Don't you think barbecue is good? Barbecue in someone's food storage room? Emil didn't know how ambitious Chen Zhao was. Damn, these two asterisks holes. How did they get into our food storage room? The supervisor looked at the monitor and cursed. Fuck, they're barbecuing. All the people in charge of the laboratory stared at Chen Zhao and Emil in the food storage room, their eyes spitting fire. I'll send someone to catch them immediately. There's also a large amount of Agent X stored inside, Stellan said. Everyone's expression changed. The supervisor even yelled. Why would you store Agent X in the food storage room? Because I don't think anyone would go there. Yes, that was indeed what he thought. But Chen Zhao and Emil just had to barge into the food storage room without a reason. But the safe is reinforced. They don't have the password, so it's impossible for them to open it. Chen, come take a look. There's a safe here. Chen Zhao went to Emil's side and saw an inlaid safe. Chen Zhao reached out and pulled open the safe's door. Huh, Emil said. You seem to absorb Agent X better than me. I couldn't open it for a long time. Chen Zhao and Emil saw that the safe was filled with Agent X. All the bottles had markings. There were 3 shelves with hundreds of bottles. Chen Zhao picked one up and poured it into his mouth. It tastes good. Is this drinkable? Emil also picked up a bottle. He wasn't a medical student, but he knew that he couldn't take too much. Moreover, he didn't know the mechanism of the drug at all. Emil also opened a bottle, but as soon as his tongue touched a little, he felt as if it was burning. What's going on? Emil tossed the Agent X away and cried out in pain, covering his mouth. What's wrong? Chen Zhao asked, confused. I don't know. I poured a drop into my mouth, and it felt like it was burning. Ow! I think it tastes good. Chen Zhao was confused. Does this Agent X need different people? Emil said, annoyed. Burp. Chen Zhao burped and drank all the Agent X. More than 100 bottles went into his stomach. Chapter 824. Whoa, the next moment Chen Zhao vomited. You really can't drink too much. Phew. It'll go to your head too. Emil was completely speechless. You're definitely drunk. Suddenly, footsteps came from outside. Amer's reaction was surprisingly fast. He immediately grabbed their only gun and fired at the door. Chen Zhao's eyes almost popped out. Wow, you're so strong. Chen Zhao glanced at the door. The dozen people outside were all dead. Emil's face was pale. Looking at the dead people, he vomited too. Lin killed so many people on the way here. But you didn't have such a big reaction. That's different. Whoa, let me vomit some more. Emil vomited all the food he'd just eaten. No. Seeing you vomit, I want to. Whoa. What did you eat just now? Disgusting. You think you're better than me? Whoa. Why are you pulling my clothes? Don't wipe it on my clothes. Emil pulled his clothes over. Looking at the corpses, he vomited again. Chen Zhao, on the other hand, had vomited everything. Let's go. If we don't come, we won't be able to leave when the strengthened Weapon X comes. Chen Zhao and Emil each carried a large pile of food in their arms. Then, they set the warehouse on fire. The supervisor and the others who'd been monitoring them were so angry that their noses were crooked. Chen Zhao and Emil ate as they walked. They wandered around like it was their own home. I vomited so much just now. I'm hungry again. Just then, someone appeared in the hallway. It was a woman in leather. She had braids and her head was lowered. Some colorful patterns could be seen on her face. Just then, a pair of bone spurs slowly extended from the woman's fist. It looked like Wolverine's claws. Don't you think this woman looks awesome? She doesn't look like a Weapon X. The woman also wore a metal collar around her neck. There was a blinking green light on it. Emil, I think you did well just now. Why don't I give this to you too? No, definitely not. Emil immediately rejected. This woman doesn't look easy. She'll definitely die. Just then, the woman charged at Chen Zhao and Emil. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out from behind, and the woman's head instantly exploded. Chen Zhao and Emil looked up. It was Lin. However, at this moment, Lin also seemed to have suffered serious injuries. His abdomen and thighs were bleeding, and Michael supported Lin. The two of you are still alive? Lin's face was a little pale. Give me something to eat. Chen Zhao and Emil passed the food to Lin. Lin stuffed the food into his mouth with big bites. At this time, The wounds on her body were quickly stopping bleeding, and at the same time, the wounds were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. What astonishing recovery power! Chen Zhao looked at Lin in surprise. Lin's recovery speed was even stronger than his. Lin seemed to be able to replenish his body with food and quickly recover from his injuries. As Lin was eating, he suddenly fell asleep. Sir, Lin Beavers is unconscious. Should we send someone to retrieve him? Stellan asked. No, I want to see her potential. Maybe she can bring me an even bigger surprise. The supervisor's eyes lit up as he looked at Lin in the monitor. He seemed to be anticipating something. Sir, she seems to be. That's right. She should be in her 7th stage of growth. How is that possible? The supervisor looked at Lin excitedly. Definitely. She entered her 7th stage in her normal state, and she might even grow into her 8th stage. Perfect form. Stellan's breathing also became rapid. How many years had it been? How many years had he been in this lab? Was a perfect test subject finally going to appear? Give her some time, the supervisor said. Don't send anyone over for now. Don't interrupt her evolution. Just then, Chen Zhao suddenly felt a wave of pajamas attack him. I feel a little sleepy, Chen Zhao said. Let me rest for a while. Wake me up when we move. Chen, now is not the time to rest. Emil's face darkened. No, I'm very sleepy now, very sleepy. He realized that Chen Zhao did not care about time and place at all. Ever since he woke up, he did not show any signs of panic at all. He had a willful and reckless personality. Chen Zhao sat in the corner and closed his eyes. Chen Zhao also knew that it was not the time to sleep, but he still felt sleepy. Michael and Emil were both very nervous. It was fine if it was Lin. After all, she was unconscious because of her injuries. But Chen Zhao was too much. He was slacking off regardless of time and place. 3 hours later, Lin opened her eyes and took a deep breath. Lin, that's great. You're awake. Michael looked at Lin in surprise. I was really worried that they would attack now. Seems like the supervisor is old and muddle-headed. He actually missed such a good opportunity. How could he disturb me at this time? Lin looked at the surveillance camera. He wants to get a perfect test subject, right? Supervisor. Lin, you're saying that he's giving you time on purpose. That's right. Lin suddenly noticed Chen Zhao on the ground. How come he's asleep too? He said he's tired. Whatever, ignore him. Let's go. It's time to settle the score with them. Wait, Chen, wait for us. Emil knew that the two of them could not leave alive, so he had to wake Chen Zhao up now. Chen, wake up. Hurry and wake up. However, Chen Zhao was sleeping soundly and did not show any signs of waking up. If you want to follow, hurry up. I'm not waiting for anyone. Lin looked down at Emil. But, since he wants to sleep, let him sleep here forever. Lin did not have any sympathy for Chen Zhao. I'll carry him, Emil said. Emil carried Chen Zhao on his back and followed Lin. Thankfully, he had good stamina now. Chen Zhao's weight was not too much of a burden for him. They came to a circular field again, but this one was even bigger than the previous one. It was at least as big as 2 basketball courts. There were many seats around it. As they entered, the door at the back closed again. Just then, the supervisor, Stellan, and the other managers all came to the audience. Chapter 825. Lin was no longer the ignorant girl from a year ago. She was no longer the girl who had been sent to the car by her parents, and then sent to this lab for no reason. She was no longer naive. Her brain's ability to think was probably in the top 100 in human history. Are these your last words? Lin looked up at the supervisor. The supervisor wasn't angry. He stood up and walked to the fence. Resting his elbows on the fence, he looked relaxed. You have one last test to do. The supervisor took out a remote control and pressed a red button on it. Then the doors around the ring-shaped arena opened. 10 people walked out. They were all the same as the weakened version of the Wolverine. They all wore leather shirts and pants, and had collars around their necks. Do you think they can stop me from killing you? Lin looked at them in disdain. She'd heard that apart from Weapon X, there was another group of more advanced weapons in the lab. There was another wave of even more advanced weapons, collectively known as the Legion. The dogs wearing collars in front of him were the soldiers of the Legion. You can try. The supervisor gestured. Just then, the soldiers started changing. One woman's arms turned into 2 tentacles. Another soldier's back had bone spikes like a porcupine. Some had 4 arms. If they had 2 heads, they would really have 3 heads and 6 arms. Anyway, these soldiers all had deformed limbs. They're all failures. They've grown to the 6th phase, but their limbs have all mutated. This is caused by the failure of their genetic recombination, the supervisor said loudly. But you're different. I don't know what happened to you, but as long as you're unlocked, it'll be the greatest discovery in human history. Humans will also usher in a comprehensive evolution. Right now, Chen Zhao was lying on Emil's back. Emil suddenly turned his head. Chen, you're awake? No. Chen Zhao's eyes were still closed. Emil immediately threw Chen Zhao to the ground. You woke up long ago? How did you know? I felt that your breathing rhythm changed. Emil stared at Chen Zhao angrily. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Actually, I just want to see when you realize I'm awake. Chen Zhao stood up and looked around. Did you drink the X drug? Fuck, will I become like them in the future? Don't worry. According to the old Baldi Stellan, our constitution has determined that we can't grow to their level. In 4 years at most, our DNA spirochete will collapse and we'll die. Don't worry. Why should he be at ease? I'd rather become like them than live for another 3 or 4 years. Chen Zhao looked at the soldiers and then at Lin. Lin, quickly deal with these things, and then catch those bastards. I want to stuff all their heads into the toilet. I'll take a dump on the toilet first, Emil added. Chen Zhao turned around and glanced at Emil. Prepare for now. In the eyes of the manager and the others, Chen Zhao, Emil, and Michael were like 3 clowns. Impale, kill the 3 of them first. The soldier with bone spikes on his back bent down and aimed the spikes at Chen Zhao's group. Whoosh whoosh, the spikes on the soldier's back shot at the 3. Fuck, he can still shoot. Chen Zhao easily dodged the spikes. Unfortunately, the accuracy is a bit off. I can't hit. Missed again. Compared to Chen Zhao's easy dodging, Michael and Emil had a much harder time. Chen Zhao grabbed a bone spike that was shooting at him. This seems like a good collection. Chen Zhao's words infuriated Impale. He curled up and started spinning. Like a spinning chainsaw, he charged at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao moved to the side and the spike brushed past him. Chen Zhao conveniently stabbed the bone spike into Impale's head. Back. Impale's head exploded by his own bone spike. He lay on the ground and didn't move. Everyone was stunned. They didn't expect Chen Zhao to finish off a soldier so easily. Chen Zhao was only in the first stage of the X drug, while every soldier was in the 6th stage. The difference in power was 7 or 8 times. They weren't even on the same level. But Chen Zhao had finished off a soldier so easily. Chen, you killed a monster? Emil's face was also filled with disbelief. This thing is just a joke, Chen Zhao said, rolling his eyes. Is he doing acrobatics? Except for Lin, kill them all. The supervisor felt that his authority was being challenged. Furious, he pointed at Chen Zhao. Lin also attacked at this time. She was as fast as lightning. However, these soldiers were all talented. For example, the soldier whose hands had turned into tentacles. His arms swung with great strength and smashed toward Lin's head. It smashed towards Lin's head. After Lin dodged it, the tentacles smashed onto the ground, directly smashing 2 terrifying marks on the concrete floor. After dodging, Lin quickly counterattacked. A bone spike appeared in her hand, and she stabbed it into the tentacle monster's neck. Chen Zhao and Emil went back to watching the show. Michael wanted to help, but his power was limited. He couldn't help at all. Lin, go. Chen, aren't you going to help? I exist as a secret weapon. It's not time for me to attack yet. Leave these small fries to Lin. Michael turned around and glared at Chen Zhao. If you can't help, don't make sarcastic remarks. Just then Chen Zhao's phone rang. Everyone looked at Chen Zhao. Then Chen Zhao picked up the phone calmly. Fei Lai, I'm very sorry for disappearing for a day. I'm sorry for making you worry. I promise I won't do it again. But my patient is very troublesome. I might need a few more hours to go home. Yeah, I know. If this patient can't be saved, I'll personally send him to see God. The supervisor turned to Stellan. You didn't take his phone? That's impossible. I checked him. He can't have a phone. Stellan looked at Chun Zhao in confusion. He also didn't know where Chun Zhao had taken out the phone. Chun, why didn't you call the police? Chapter 826. I feel like I really want to do that now. Hold it in. Think about it. You've been locked up for a month. Think about it again. No one talked to you for a month. Hold it in. But I really can't hold it in anymore. Alright, come back to where you were. Emil's face was bitter. Do you have paper? Go ask them for it. Whatever. I'll hold it in. Lin, come on. We can't hold it anymore. Lin had just blown up a man's lower body with a kick. You can't hold it anymore? You don't have a single enemy. You're telling me you can't hold it anymore? Are you going against the air? Chin, don't disturb Lin. Don't distract her. Emil really didn't want anything to happen to Lin because of his physiological needs. He'd already realized that Chun Zhao was purely here to cause trouble. Chun Zhao's greatest contribution was probably just 2 cheers. Really only 2 cheers. After a total of 20 minutes, Lin finally killed all the soldiers. Lin looked up at the supervisor and the others in the audience. It's your turn now. Are you ready to die? The supervisor and the others were still calm and indifferent. Lin, I'll give you one last chance to consider. Give up resisting. After all, you're our most important test subject. We don't want anything to happen to you. Are you begging for mercy now? Lin felt that the supervisor was at his wit's end. A smile appeared on the supervisor's face. He pressed the second black button on the remote. Just then, a mechanical door opened on the ground, revealing a stone room below. Roar! There was a roar from below. A huge figure jumped up from below. It was a 5-meter-tall monster. It didn't look like a human anymore. Its skin was dark red. Its upper body was huge, especially its arms. They were like hammers. Its lower body was slightly short. It had a round head and no ears. There was a pair of antennae on its forehead. It looked like some kind of sensory organ. It opened its bloody mouth and let out a deafening roar. There was also a metal collar around its neck. Everyone's expression changed. Even Lin took a few steps back. She thought that she had made all the preparations, but when the giant monster appeared, she was still shocked. This monster exuded a dangerous aura. Yes, she felt a dangerous aura. I'm dead. I'm dead this time. How can a human defeat a monster like this? Emil was so scared that his face was drained of blood. Lin finally made a gesture of going all out. This time, she finally felt uncertain and fearful. Let me give you a grand introduction. It's your brother. At least in terms of the structure of the DNA helix, you should be the closest to it, the supervisor said. It's called the Demon King. Lin suddenly dashed towards the Devil King and stabbed the bone spear in his hand into the Devil King's abdomen. However, her all-out attack was completely unharmed against the Demon King. The bone spear actually broke, but it did not pierce through the Demon King's skin. The Demon King was infuriated by Lin's sudden attack and slapped his claws at Lin. Bang! Lin's entire body flew out and hit the wall heavily. She vomited a mouthful of blood, but her body's functions were rapidly recovering. However, this also made her already weak body much weaker. Lin's mind worked quickly. The strength of this monster was completely above her. This monster was definitely the most powerful creature on land. Even though she was now in the 7th phase, and her physical fitness had fully evolved. However, she had no chance of winning in terms of strength. Her body was small, so in terms of speed and agility, she should be able to gain an advantage. Lin's eyes turned and began to look for the weak spot of the monster's body. Eyes. Lin's eyes locked onto the eyes of the Demon King, and her body moved again. She burst out with her fastest speed and rushed towards the Demon King like an arrow leaving the bow. However, the Demon King did not attack as she had planned. Instead, it actively avoided Lin's attack and then punched. Lin quickly blocked his face with both of his arms and took the Devil King's devastating fist head-on. Without a doubt, Lin was blasted away again. Lin! Michael's face was full of nervousness and worry. He wanted to rush forward to help Lin. However, Lin shouted, "Don't come up. You're no match for this monster. You'll only add to the chaos if you come up. Come on, Lin, come on. Chun, don't add to the chaos, and don't attract the monster's attention." Amber's face was full of despair. the most powerful person on their side, had been completely suppressed by this monster. Of course, Lin did not give up. She was still fighting back tenaciously, but the effect was not obvious. If not for her strong recovery ability, she would have been lying on the ground by now. This monster called the Demon King was simply too powerful. Lin's heart skipped a beat. While the Demon King was chasing her, she began to consciously lead the way in the direction of the supervisor. The Demon King punched the bottom of the auditorium, and half of the auditorium instantly collapsed from the Demon King's punch. The supervisor, Stellan, and the others were all covered in dust. Of course, they had all been strengthened, so they were not injured. "Idiot, you idiot!" The supervisor roared at the Demon King. This was also the reason why he had been pursuing a perfect evolution. The Demon King was indeed powerful. It was far more powerful than the 7th phase. However, its intelligence was too low. It was worlds apart from Lin, who was also in the 7th phase. It was just a monster, a beast. This was not the perfect evolution that he was pursuing either. What he needed was an individual with perfect intelligence, strength, and self-recovery ability, not a beast that only knew destruction and killing. The Demon King ignored the supervisor's insults and continued looking for Lin. Lin had dodged the Demon King's attack, but she was also affected by the collapse of the auditorium. The Demon King looked at Lin and raised its huge fist again. Just then, a pebble hit the Demon King's head. Michael yelled, "Come on, scum, come to Grandpa." As expected, the Demon King gave up on Lin and turned to Chen Zhao's group. Amr was scared out of his wits. "Brother, if you want to die, don't drag us down with you." Chen Zhao pulled Michael away. "Okay, leave the rest to me." Michael and Amr stared at Chen Zhao in disbelief. From the beginning to the end, Chen Zhao had only harassed them verbally. He had not brought any help to their team. Why did he suddenly become brave? Chapter 827. Chen, aren't you scared? Emil's face was filled with disbelief. This wasn't a joke like before. People would really die this time. Plus, they didn't have Lin's super recovery ability. One punch from this monster was enough to shatter them into pieces. One punch from this monster could shatter 1/3 of the audience. It was enough to know that this monster's power definitely surpassed most creatures on Earth. Lin stood up again and yelled, "Idiot, go away. Do you want to die?" The supervisor, on the other hand, crossed his arms in front of his chest with a disapproving smile on his face. Anyway, everyone except Lin was going to die today. Just then, the Demon King had already reached Chen Zhao. Compared to the 5-meter-tall monster, Chen Zhao was simply too small. The Demon King raised his right arm and smashed it down on Chen Zhao's head. Everyone could almost see the result of Chen Zhao being smashed into mincemeat. Chen Zhao raised his left arm and pushed up. The ground where Chen Zhao was standing instantly cracked. Like a spider web, the cracks spread out in all directions. The Demon King's punch was very powerful. Chen Zhao roughly felt it. It was about 7 or 8 tons of force. Everyone was shocked by the Demon King's terrifying punch. But what shocked them even more was that Chen Zhao had blocked the Demon King's punch with one hand. How is this possible? Everyone's mind went blank. How is this possible? The manager and the others couldn't think anymore. Lin, Emil and Michael's brains also went blank. He was only in the 1st phase of awakening. How could he take the attack of a 7th phase monster? Their strength wasn't equal at all. Their sizes were also very different. But Chen Zhao managed to block the punch. The Demon King crossed his fists and smashed down on Chen Zhao's head again. Chen Zhao waved his left arm and blocked the Demon King's punch again. At the same time, he raised his right arm and smashed it against the Demon King's fists. Bang! The Demon King was sent flying, sweeping across the audience. The spectator seats were completely destroyed. Everyone was stunned. They couldn't believe what they saw. The Demon King was sent flying? What was wrong with this guy? The Demon King stood up again and let out a deafening roar. Chen Zhao's counterattack made him even more furious. The Demon King stomped and charged at Chen Zhao with all his might. At this moment, all the power of the Demon King erupted. He charged at Chen Zhao like a cannonball. Chen Zhao took 2 steps forward and punched with his right arm. The air rubbed against his fist like a red-hot soldering iron. The air in the entire ring-shaped arena was oppressed by this punch. When the Demon King's fist collided with Chen Zhao's, the Demon King's fist shook violently. The Demon King's fist was collapsing like a broken balloon. The Demon King was big, but compared to Chen Zhao's past opponents, he didn't have much of an advantage. It was probably similar to the Minotaur Chen Zhao had encountered in the Crypt Demon's Pyramid. Half of the Demon King's body was festering from Chen Zhao's punch. Everyone looked at this scene in disbelief. Lin stared at Chen Zhao in shock. How could Chen Zhao have such terrifying power? He was only at the first stage of evolution, but even a mutated monster at the 7th stage couldn't compete with his power. Looks like you haven't seen a real Demon King. How dare a brat like him call himself a Demon King? Chen Zhao's face was full of disdain. A fierce glint flashed across the supervisor's eyes. He pressed the remote control in his hand. Suddenly, the metal collar around the Demon King's neck exploded. The terrifying explosion, flames, and shockwaves rushed toward Chen Zhao, engulfing him in an instant. Oh no! Everyone watched in shock as Chen Zhao was engulfed by the explosion. Lin, who was closer, was sent flying by the shockwaves. Michael and Amber lay on the ground, barely avoiding the impact. But when they looked up and the flames were extinguished, they realized that Chen Zhao was still standing in the same spot. The Demon King had become a headless corpse, but Chen Zhao was still standing there unharmed. Disbelief was written all over everyone's faces. The supervisor clearly couldn't accept this result. He stared at Chen Zhao in a daze. How is it possible? That was 3 kilograms of TNT. What did 3 kilograms of TNT mean? A grenade with 50 grams of TNT could kill a human within 10 meters. 3 kilograms was equivalent to the power of 60 grenades of the same quality. But this still couldn't kill Chen Zhao? Chen Zhao looked at Stellan. Now it's time to settle the score. Stellan's expression changed in shock. What kind of monster are you? The power that Chen Zhao had displayed was definitely far beyond the limit of Agent X's 8th stage. Even if the Demon King evolved to the 8th stage, he still wouldn't be Chen Zhao's match. The difference in strength was just too great. But this was too unreasonable. The result of Agent X's evolution was the limit that he calculated humans could reach. How could Chen Zhao surpass this limit? Chen Zhao walked toward the supervisor and the others. Don't come any closer. The supervisor threatened with the remote control. If you come closer, I'll press the self-destruct button. The explosion might not kill you, but it can bury you here forever. Chen Zhao sneered. Don't fool me. This isn't a movie. Chen Zhao still walked toward them unmoved. A cold smile appeared on the supervisor's face. He pressed the self-destruct button. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the entire base shook violently. Fuck, it's really self-destruct. Run. Chen Zhao glanced at the supervisor and the others. Then he charged forward and started a massacre. Chen Zhao was afraid that the explosion wouldn't really kill them all, so he'd rather kill them himself. Chen, why aren't you running? Hurry up. Amma ran to the exit. Lin and Michael were also sprinting. Chen Zhao quickly caught up to them. Just then, a wave of heat came from the front. Everyone immediately stopped. Chen Zhao took the lead. Follow behind me. Chen Zhao raised his right arm and absorbed the flames from the corridor. Which way? Chen Zhao turned back and asked Lin. Turn left. Lin led the way. Chen Zhao was very fast. Everywhere he passed, the flames from the explosion would disappear mysteriously. A rock fell from above. Chen Zhao went up and pushed the huge rock with both hands, letting everyone pass. After 10 minutes of running and escaping, everyone finally escaped from the underground lab. Chapter 828. At the moment, only Chen Zhao was calm. Lin, Michael, and Emil couldn't calm down at all. Chen Zhao was calm because even if he was buried underground, he could still find a way to get out. After all, he had the spatial ring with a lot of food inside. The others felt like they'd just survived a disaster. That 10-minute journey was too thrilling for them. If Chen Zhao hadn't taken the lead, and Lin hadn't pointed the way, they might have all been buried in the lab forever. Okay, it's fun to experience the game with you guys. Goodbye. Game. Is this a game to you? Everyone was speechless, but they couldn't refute him. This disaster really wasn't a threat to Qinzhao at all. If he wanted to, he could come out without any obstacles. All the Weapon X and the army in the lab, even the huge monster at the end, couldn't threaten Qinzhao at all. It was no wonder that he had been so calm and collected from the beginning to the end. He had been facing everything with a relaxed attitude. Qinzhao took 2 steps and stopped. "Oh, if you need a doctor, I can give you a discount." The 3 stood there and watched Qinzhao walk further and further away. They left too. This place wasn't worth their time. The car was still there, as if only an hour had passed. After the 4 left the ruins, one person came to the surroundings. "Boss, something happened in the 3rd lab." "The 3rd lab? Which location?" "The one 50 kilometers northeast of Lane." "What happened? Can the data be retrieved?" "It can't be retrieved. The entire lab collapsed and sank into the ground. From the looks of it, it's probably caused by the self-destruct mechanism." Qinzhao returned home. When Fei Lai saw him, she was unhappy. "Fei Lai, sorry for making you worry." Qinzhao also had a headache. This was completely an accident. He'd thought that Qinzhao was just a regular client, but he'd been put under house arrest. "Do you know how worried I was? And I couldn't get through to your phone." Fei Lai didn't know how many times she'd called Qinzhao today. In the past, Qinzhao would always tell her when he disappeared for a day. But this time, he didn't say anything. Moreover, she couldn't get through to him. That was why Fei Lai was so worried. It was natural for him to be angry at Qinzhao. After much persuasion, Qinzhao finally calmed her down. But the one who hurt the most was Zhilin. They hadn't seen each other for a day. Little Zhilin was stunned for 3 seconds before she pounced on Qinzhao. A child's memory was strange to begin with. For children, they remember things for a short period of time. If a person disappeared for a few days, a child's memory would be blurred. Holding Zhilin, Qinzhao and Fei Lai sat on top of the inner core in the center of the lake. No matter when or where, this was the most comfortable moment for Qinzhao. Little Zhilin laid on the inner core, wanting to chew on it. Qinzhao quickly pulled Zhilin up. This inner core was so hard, and its outer shell was as rough as a rock. Little Zhilin's mouth was about to be filled with blood when she moved it up. Zhilin didn't know fear at all. Qinzhao didn't dare to let her take the risk. In the blink of an eye, the sky darkened. The family of 3 sat together with the baby in Fei Lai's stomach, enjoying this peaceful moment. The red glow shone on the west wind, and the river of stars embraced the bright moon. The 3 didn't return to the shore until the sky darkened. By now, the underlings had already prepared dinner. Qinzhao had already started feeding Zhilin some millet porridge. Of course, it was mainly milk powder. A child's digestive system was weaker. It couldn't digest more complicated food. This was a process that needed adaptation. The change of food was also from milk powder to millet porridge or rice paste, and then to lean meat porridge. In about half a year to a year, the child could be weaned. Some children weren't completely weaned at 4 or 5 years old. This wasn't good for them. It was better to feed the child some mixed food as early as possible. It was easier when they were weaned. Little Zhilin held a bowl as big as her face. As she drank the porridge, it flowed to the sides. Then Bramble and Bramble started licking the porridge on the ground. After finishing the bowl, Zhilin looked like she'd just taken a shower. Porridge flowed all over her body. Qinzhao and Fei Lai didn't feed her. They mainly wanted to train Zhilin's independence. However, Qinzhao couldn't be bothered to bathe her, because she still had to crawl on the ground and go into the water. Qinzhao would only bathe her when she was about to sleep. As long as she was within Qinzhao's territory, Zhilin was safe. The territory was large, but Qinzhao wasn't worried that she would get lost. The entire territory was filled with his spies. Zhilin couldn't get lost. "Chun, the grapes are ripe. Can we use them to make wine now?" Fei Lai asked. Qinzhao smiled wryly. Fei Lai had almost forgotten about the grape trees, but she'd actually remembered them again. After the grapes were planted, Fei Lai rarely took care of the vines. It was almost always the inferior demons taking care of the vines. She didn't expect to remember it again at this moment. "Fei Lai, the grapes from a few years ago don't have enough sugar," Qinzhao said. "I'm afraid we can't use them to make wine. But I think they're sweet." "Sweet?" Qinzhao wasn't sure either. After all, Mirror Lake was full of spiritual energy. It was completely different from other places. After dinner, Chun Zhao and Fei Lai went to the vineyard in the backyard. Chun Zhao plucked a grape and put it in his mouth. So sweet, so juicy. The sweet and meaty taste was much better than the grapes he'd eaten before. Moreover, these were all natural grapes without any chemical fertilizers, nor any pesticides or the like. However, the grapes grew exceptionally well. Each grape was huge and plump. Okay. Chun Zhao nodded. Then how do we make wine? Fei Lai asked. Let the inferior demons harvest the grapes first, Chun Zhao said. Their vineyard wasn't big. 2 acres of vines had actually produced a ton of grapes. Fei Lai, pick some and give them to our friends, Chun Zhao said. Oh, okay. Just then, Princess came to a basket of grapes that the inferior demons had picked. She grabbed a bunch of grapes and stuffed them into her mouth. Oh, Princess really liked the taste. Usually, Chun Zhao and Fei Lai wouldn't let her come. Today, she finally got to eat grapes as she wished. King Kong also liked the taste. He grabbed a bunch of grapes with his big hand. There was only a ton of grapes. It wasn't enough for the 2 of them. Stop eating, Chun Zhao yelled. If you eat any more, there won't be enough wine. Do you want to drink wine? Chun Zhao didn't stop his pets from drinking. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.